Chapter 1 Brothers are of the same mind, and their profits break gold. East Blue. Some people say, the sea is like a capricious woman. The first second is calm and the next second is hysterical. Roman in the previous life had never seen the sea, but Roman in this life deeply believed in it. Even if he had been drifting and fighting at sea for 3 years, he had to hold on to the rope around him to avoid being thrown into the sea. The sky was dark and cloudy, and the gust of wind blew the skull flags loudly. The waves are also ups and downs layer by layer. Just looking at the surging momentum, there is a majestic and irresistible power between heaven and earth. If you look from the top down, the pirate ship, Ride the Wind and Break the Waves, with a displacement of 400 tons and a capacity of 50 people is like a falling willow leaf. At this moment, a huge light suddenly flashed in the sky in the distance, and the power of nature suddenly fell. Under this lightning, the skin of everyone on the Ride the Wind and Waves was dyed with a layer of luster, and at the same time, the swords in their hands were extremely dazzling. And the watchman on the mast had already shouted loudly. Target found. 3 o'clock, 12 nautical miles away. Standing straight like a gun in the wind and waves, standing on the bow of the boat was a middle-aged man with a dark black triangle hat on his head. Right full rudder, spinnaker, full speed going. Under the command of the middle-aged captain with eyes like falcons, Ride the Wind and Break the Waves, as its name suggests, cut through the sea and slid forward like an arrow. Even the stormy waves did not affect its speed. It didn't take long for the target of this pirate ship to appear in the eyes of everyone. It was an armed merchant ship. Although the sailors on it kept throwing wooden barrels and debris into the sea, it was still dominated by the speed advantage. Ride the Wind and Waves gradually caught up from behind. Prepare, let go. The middle-aged captain raised the rapier in his hand again. Following that strong downward swing, the Ride the Wind and Waves suddenly tilted to the left, and at the same time spit out a few tongues of fire from the right. In the white fog, a few howling shells dashed towards the merchant ship ahead to the right. But since it is an armed merchant ship that dares to go out to sea for transportation, of course it will not be an opponent that such a solid iron ball can easily take down. In fact, this kind of attack, the significance of temptation is far greater than the damage of battle. Test whether the opponent has a master who can intercept the shells. After a few rounds of bombardment to determine that the other party has no masters, the middle-aged captain raised his chin and directly ordered to speed up to approach, ready to take over the battle. For the captain of the pirate ship, this is their favorite practice. Because once the ship is victorious, it will not only plunder as much wealth as possible, but also seize the entire merchant ship. Of course, the risk of a side-to-side battle and the ratio of the sailors lost to the battle are also quite astonishing. Despite the huge waves and rolling white waves, the windbreaker relied on its extraordinary speed to quickly sail parallel to the bulky merchant ship on the right. As each claws flew over and wrapped around the sides of the opponent's ship, although the sailors on the armed merchant ship continued to shoot back, the bad weather seriously affected the use of flintlock guns. The pirates on the Ride the Wind and Waves were already screaming with excitement, and quickly set up a springboard to prepare for the hand-to-hand combat, but whoosh! A figure has already leapt over the distance between the two ships, and with a bang, it landed behind the line of defense formed by the sailors of the merchant ship. Who? In the exclamations of the sailors of the merchant ship, the boy who fell behind them, yes, although the person who came was well proportioned, the muscles under the thin sailor's suit were distinct, but from the handsome face of the other party. It's a young man. And the face of the other party in another situation, maybe the sailors would mistakenly think it was a noble man who traveled, but now the other party is holding a sailor knife in one hand and a shield in the other, so he doesn't look like a good person. Kill him. Following an order from a caravan leader, the surrounding sailors rushed towards the young man immediately, and a few sailor knives slashed at him without hesitation. At such a critical juncture, untimely laughter came from the Ride the Wind and the Waves. Ha ha ha, they're dead. How dare you attack Captain Roman? Wonderful. Among the unbridled laughter of the pirates were the talking to himself of the besieged young man. You were the first to do it. Clang. The metal shield in his hand. No, a circle with a thickness of more than 3 centimeters is no longer a shield, but a steel plate. Just a random sweep, and immediately pushed back the 3 sailor knives that had been hacked. In front of the huge force, the 3 sailor knives instantly shattered into pieces. As if 3 bombs had been detonated, pieces of fragments containing powerful kinetic energy shot in all directions in a shrill whistling. Puff puff. The thick deck was cut and slashed by fragments in an instant, and long marks were scratched in the harsh cracking sound. What's even worse is the several sailors who launched the attack. Under this attack, like a shotgun, their bodies were slashed by the high-speed flying debris like rags, and they shot a bloody arrow backwards in an instant. Bang, bang, bang. Then came the sound of the flesh falling softly, and brush. The silver light of the knife spun around the boy, and the heads of a few sailors flew up in the air. Their confused eyes hadn't realized what was going on, and the attacker had already pounced like a cheetah at the merchant sailor next to him. Past. Tiger into the flock. Battle? No, it's not even a battle anymore. Whether it is strength or speed, the boy called Captain Roman by the pirates is far more than ordinary people. With the lightning-fast sailor's knife in his hand, and the shield weighing hundreds of pounds every time he swings, a caravan sailor screams or he can't even scream. Oh 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 oh. Quick, quick. Don't let Captain Roman kill all alone. As Roman swept out a large deck in an instant, the pirates on the ride the wind and waves screamed and stepped on the springboard. After another bald battle captain chopped over a dozen caravan sailors in one go, the morale of the caravan collapsed. Let go of the deck. Bang. Well done, Roman. At this time, the middle-aged captain also crossed the springboard. He first nodded to Roman, who had a knife and a shield, and then turned to look at the place where the merchant sailors escaped, the cabin. It seems that the other party has not given up the resistance. Keep up. The middle-aged captain, who was as straight as a gun, put his hand on the hilt of the sword at his waist, and strode towards the stairs of the cabin with a calm and elegant posture. The pirates behind him also shouted and raised their weapons to follow. Rush in. Going down the stairs, facing a resistance line organized by a dozen caravan sailors, they relied on the narrow terrain of the cabin passage. The gunmen in front were half kneeling on the ground, and the flintlock guns in their hands were standing upright in the back, forming a multi-stage dense-type lineup. As soon as I saw someone coming in, I immediately pulled the trigger without hesitation. Because the middle-aged captain walking in front is undoubtedly the leader among the pirates, almost all the lead bullets are poured towards him. However, the middle-aged captain had a cruel and bloodthirsty smile on his face. Facing the whistling bullets, he pulled out the silver stabbing sword from his waist at this moment and flew in the air at a dazzling speed. Swipe to stab. Shish. His shot was so fast that it surpassed the capture range of the human eye, so that what most pirates saw in the eyes of the pirates was that silver lines suddenly appeared beside the middle-aged captain. Then the buckshot that was shot at him flew out and was deeply embedded in the surrounding cabin. The sword splits bullets, the knife blocks firearms. At this time the world is not a fantasy, but superior, sign. Immediately afterwards, the middle-aged captain's forward speed did not decrease, and he directly strode past the temporary positions built by these sailors. Behind him, the faces of the more than 10 caravan sailors were full of horror and disbelief. They froze in place, and after a few seconds, the sailors' throats, eyebrows, chests and other vital points shot out a stream of blood, and then slowly fell down. Captain Mighty. Captain is invincible. Ha ha ha, I really admire the courage of our captain who has a reward of 30 million. There is also Captain Roman with a reward of 10 million inches. The pirates in the back were not used to seeing this kind of situation. They first glanced at their captain in awe, and then swarmed up, looting these corpses very professionally. Then he used the dead man's clothes to wipe the blood from the weapon, and then dragged the body onto the deck. Throw it into the sea to feed the fish. And Roman and another bald battle captain followed in the footsteps of the middle-aged captain in front, and all the resistance along the way was as fragile as paper in front of the three of them. The captain attacked and killed people at high speed. The strong bald man was powerful enough to destroy the terrain, and Roman's defense was strictly blocking the damage. In this way, the three of them walked all the way to an elegant gate. Bang! The door was kicked away by the bald battle captain, and then he strode in, facing the caravan captain with a three-cornered hat and raised the bloody axe in his hand. "You can't kill me." The captain was holding a small box tightly and desperately trying to freight the intruding thugs. "I'm a joker." Puff! The bald battle captain went down with an axe, and instantly slammed the second half of the captain's sentence back into his throat. What did he just say? Roman, who was the last to enter, frowned. He said, the strong bald man touched his smooth scalp and said uncertainly, he said he was a clown. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. It's just the bark of a lost dog. The middle-aged captain waved his hand, and indifferently stepped forward and picked up the box on the ground and opened it. Anyway, the two people present are his confidants, even if there is any treasure. Click. As the box was opened, a purple fruit appeared in the eyes of the three of them. There are also circles of lines on the fruit, which look like devil fruit. In an instant, the air in the captain's room suddenly solidified. Chapter 2. As soon as the fruit comes out, there will be no more brothers. Ha ha ha. Great harvest. Drink. I'll do it first, you can do whatever you want. Eat. On the calm sea, the two boats moved slowly one after the other. Ride the wind and break the waves, a banquet is being held. The members of the Silver Light Pirates, who have just won a big victory, are bringing over the food and drinks from the merchant ship and enjoying themselves on the deck. Big bowls of drinking, big mouthfuls of meat, big scales for gold. After a hearty battle, eating and drinking is the happiest time for pirates. Of course, there are Bailey in his pocket and all kinds of gold and silver jewelry. And in addition to these private spoils, this time they made a big deal. The merchant ship was full of arms. This kind of hard currency will never be unsustainable in any country in this war-torn world. After the captain promised to sell the goods, 3,241 divided. The captain gets 30%, the bald captain gets 20%, the others get 40%, and Captain Roman gets 10%. In fact, it should have been divided into 3,232, but the young Captain Roman said that he would only take 10%, and the rest would be given to everyone. But well, don't kill children, don't allow strong women to fuck women. Looking at that share and great strength, all the pirates could only hold their noses and execute the request of Captain Roman, who had a nervous problem. After all, with the captain's acquiescence, even a bald battle captain can only abide by it. In short, the boy named Roman seems to be out of tune with ordinary pirates, and has many eccentricities that they can't figure out. For example, brush your teeth and wash your face every day. For example, keep exercising whenever you have free time. For example, all savings are used to buy high-end ingredients. For example, you have to wait for someone else to fight back before you fight back. So, while everyone gathered in a small circle to brag and drink, a teenager named Roman sat alone on the side of the boat. Discretionary. See Circle Calendar 1520. Roman was a little stunned. Before he knew it, it had been 3 years since he came to this world. Yes, Roman is a celestial traveler. However, it hurts that I don't know if there is something wrong with the Time and Space Administration. Roman, who has crossed into the world of One Piece, King of Pirates, is not only a nobody, but also doesn't even have a standard golden finger. Don't talk about the system, I have never seen the devil fruit that travelers must eat. At the same time, as Roman, who has a criminal record, in addition to continuing to work as a pirate, he has no chance to join Marine to learn Rokushiki and Sanshiki hockey. The future is bleak. Thinking of the devil fruit, Roman glanced in the direction of the captain subconsciously, just in line with the middle-aged man sitting on the main seat. In an instant, a young plane, a middle-aged hawk, the eyes of the two collided in the air. And then slipped away as if nothing had happened. Devil fruit, Roman sighed in his heart. Rumor has it a treasure worth 100 million Bailey. And this is simply priceless. Because for many forces, 100 million Bailey is nothing, it is just a small goal, but a devil fruit can greatly increase the combat power of a core member. Whether it is turned into combat power, or sold into money. For the Silver Light Pirates, it is a huge temptation. So, after the middle-aged captain nonchalantly and on the box. Between the three leaders of this pirate group, there is an inexplicable strange atmosphere. Perhaps, at that time, the captain directly chose to eat it in one bite. In a blink of an eye, Roman's well-proportioned arm suddenly lost strength, and the cup fell weakly on the deck. Clang! The sound of the metal cup falling to the ground seemed to be a signal. As Roman leaned back on the side of the ship, the pirates who were still reveling in the field immediately fell softly one by one. Dong dong dong. After the sound of a dense fall to the ground, the Ride the Wind and Waves, which was in full swing just now, became silent in an instant, and everyone fell to the ground, as if they had fallen asleep. No, they are dead. The pupils in the wide-open eyes began to dilate, the blood slowly flowing from the corners of the mouth, and the chest that had stopped rising. Everything shows that the end of the Silver Pirates has come quietly. Apart from sitting on the captain's throne, the middle-aged captain playing with the wine glass in his hand. HMPH. The middle-aged captain with a gloomy face snorted and stood up, placing his palm on the stabbing sword at his waist. Get up, stop pretending. Following the captain's words, two figures stood up in the corpse pile, Roman, and the bald battle captain. Why, Captain? Roman said quietly. Can't you just eat the devil fruit directly? It can not only greatly improve the combat effectiveness, but also lead the brothers to make a fortune. Roman looked at the middle-aged captain's cold face, with regret and disappointment in his eyes. In all fairness, his captain is already good among pirates. Brainy, strong, not stingy, not squeamish. As a traveler, Roman, who has no golden fingers and knows nothing about sailing, feels that staying in the Silver Pirates is also a good choice. At least he can exercise peacefully and improve his strength. It seems that I overestimated you, Captain. Picking up the sailor knife and shield from the deck, Roman took a stance to face the middle-aged captain. Its meaning is self-evident. Roman, let's deal with him together. The bald-headed strong man on the other side held an axe and moved towards Roman while cautiously guarding against the middle-aged captain. It is a very wise choice for the weak two to join forces to kill the strong one first, so. Okay. Roman replied without hesitation, and then. Huh. Just as the bald-headed strong man entered Roman's 2-meter cordon, the bald-headed strong man suddenly turned around, and the huge axe in his hand slashed towards Roman with a piercing sound. It was an attack with all his strength. Captain, do it. Clang. However, at the moment when the bald strong man suddenly launched the attack, Roman also turned his shield upwards and blocked it at 30 degrees. While blocking the bald attack, let the opponent's axe slide to the side with a string of sparks. Then there was a flash of light in the other hand. Puff! A huge head with a smooth scalp flew into the air. Boom! Stepping back to the side to make way for the headless corpse that fell over, Roman turned his head to look at the middle-aged captain who was standing there. Why didn't you take the opportunity to attack? Facing the silent middle-aged captain, Roman shook his head to himself. It seems that you don't even want to stay with him. You are still loyal to you until you die. However, the middle-aged captain on the opposite side was still indifferent. Come on, Captain. It's useless to talk about it. Pirates, the way to deal with problems, are not the fists that are bigger than whose fists in the end. With the shield in front and the sailor's knife hidden in the back, Roman took a stance and strode toward his immediate boss. The opponent is extremely fast and agile. If you want to win, you must compress his space for movement. Huh. Ding ding ding. On the ride the wind and break the waves. The last two members of the Silverlight Pirates are fighting to the death. One side roams at high speed, the rapier in his hand is like a hurricane. The other side fights steadily, the shield is responsible for blocking the long sword and waiting for an opportunity. Although it looked like Roman was beaten, there were several blood holes on his body. But there was not a trace of panic in his eyes. After all, the middle-aged captain's high-speed sword was very exhausting. Usually, he needed to cooperate with others to recover his energy. As long as the other party showed fatigue. You want to wait for me to show fatigue. Innocent. After another stab was blocked by Roman's shield, the middle-aged man suddenly took a deep breath while moving at a high speed, and then cut. The stabbing sword in his hand suddenly burst into a splendid brilliance and slashed fiercely. Like a silver moon leaking to the ground, and like a stunned thunder. Silently, like a hot knife cutting butter, the heavy shield in Roman's hand was split in two. Cut iron. A sword broke through Roman's proud defense, and the stabbing sword in the middle-aged captain's hand quickly retracted, and without hesitation, he charged towards Roman's throat at a high speed. From his point of view, Roman, who had lost his shield, was defeated in an instant in front of his swordsmanship. Puff. Blood splattered. His face changed greatly. The blood was Roman's blood, but the expression of panic and anger was on the middle-aged captain's face. At the moment when the shield shattered, Roman directly raised his left hand to meet the middle-aged captain's stabbing sword. Of course he couldn't perform such a difficult operation as snatch a blade with bare hands. However, based on Roman's understanding of the middle-aged captain, the opponent's next sword will definitely aim at his throat, so empty-handed, installed, bare blade. No problem at all. The middle-aged captain's rapier pierced Roman's palm, and then went all the way up his arm, breaking out from his elbow. It looked like Roman had grown a silver arm blade. He was hit hard by this, and even the battle-hardened Roman had his face twitched, but he was still in the electric light and flint, and the 5 fingers of his left hand had not hesitated to clasp on the gauntlet of the stabbing sword. At the same time, the right hand slashed out. PFF'd. The blood splashed, mixed with organs that flowed out of the lower abdomen. Indeed, as the middle-aged captain imagined, the victory or defeat is in an instant. Just the opposite of what he imagined. You lost. Roman, whose left hand was pierced by the stabbing sword, walked slowly towards the middle-aged man who was half kneeling on the ground, clutching his stomach. Actually, the moment I saw the devil fruit, I was also moved. But I still hope you can come up with a fair distribution plan, Captain. Backfired. Cough cough. That's 100 million Baileys. The middle-aged captain, who was half kneeling on the ground, spoke in pain. With this money, you can buy a family business in any country and become a nobleman. Who would be willing to fight to death on this sea? The middle-aged man gritted his teeth, but had to face the reality. Roman, I lost. The fruit is for you, in the captain's room. He covered the wound on his stomach with one hand, and blood kept gushing out from his fingers. At the same time, his dignity was also passing away. Let me go, I can't threaten you anymore. I don't want this either, but I still have my mother, wife, and a 5-year-old daughter who stay in my hometown. I don't want them to lose their sons, husbands, fathers. I just want to work hard for them to have a family business where they can live happily. Under the repentance of the middle-aged man, Roman, who walked in front of him, put down the sailor knife in his hand and sighed. Even after rolling around in the pirate pile for several years, the concept of his previous life is still affecting him. Thank you, thank you. The middle-aged man bowed his head as if repenting, but his eyes flashed fiercely. With a flick of his wrist, a hidden sword silently popped out, and then die. Puff. The two figures suddenly overlapped, and as the sharp blade pierced through the flesh, the expression of the middle-aged captain slowly changed from hideous to stunned. Captain. Roman, who stabbed the opponent with a knife, whispered in the opponent's ear. Your hometown was razed to the ground by yourself 10 years ago. What other wives, children and mothers are there. Puff. The sailor's knife was drawn out, taking away the life and soul of the middle-aged captain by the way. He fell backward in a pool of blood, and the three-cornered hat representing power rolled aside. Only an ordinary middle-aged man remained. This is the pirate. The only victor looked around. Although all the scum lying on the ground was burning, killing and looting, they were also fighting and laughing together. It's just a pirate. The boy turned around and walked towards the captain's room, taking over the fruit of victory poured in blood. Third chapter. The Straw Hat debuts, and the style of painting changes. Blue sky, white clouds. A merchant ship drifts in the wind at sea, with neither aim nor direction. The whole ship was empty, not even a sailor, as if it was the legendary ghost ship. Until boom. A wooden barrel that also drifted with the tide slammed into the side of the merchant ship, and Ying heard a sentence from the barrel. Huh, hit a ship. Excellent. Boom. The wooden barrel was smashed open by a fist, and a figure with a straw hat stretched out his upper body excitedly from inside. Sleep is really comfortable. Then. Huh. The boy's arms suddenly stretched out, grabbed directly on the side of the ship like a rubber band, and then pulled hard. Snapped. The whole person jumped onto the merchant ship, and the boy in the straw hat laughed. It's so dangerous, I thought I would be swept into the sea by the whirlpool. My trip to One Piece, King of Pirates, came close. Creak. The door on the deck of the merchant ship opened, and Roman stepped out, looking at the invader in front of him with cold eyes. It was a young man with short black hair, looking a little messy, and there was a knife scar under his left eye. Wearing a red waistcoat and blue half-leg jeans. Wear straw sandals. Of course, the most awake comes from Shinchaochun. The aim is to wear a straw hat and have a confident smile on your face. This dress. Roman's eyes flickered for a while, but he soon calmed down. Monkey D. Luffy. The son of destiny in this world, the rubber fruit ability, said, I am going to be the man of One Piece, King of Pirates. Fool. What are pirates? It is robbery, it is unearned, it is reckless, it is the scum of the scum, and it is the wicked party of the wicked party. Hi, hello. Seeing Roman walked out, the Straw Hat Boy smiled and waved. 100,000 Baileys. For a moment, the other party's smile solidified on his face, as if a row of black question marks appeared above the straw hat. Freight. Roman continued to speak calmly. 100,000 Baileys, 3 meals a day, accommodation is provided, more than half a month will add extra money. This. The Straw Hat Boy's entire face collapsed instantly, and it took a long time before he could say a word. I have no money. No money. Roman glanced at the boy who exuded a poor and sour breath, a straw hat, a waistcoat, a pair of 5-point jeans, a pair of slippers. He didn't even have a pocket all over his body, he just had to write, 1 poor and 2 white, on his face. I'm sorry, please go back where you came from. The protagonist is the most annoying. No, bro. The Straw Hat Boy was so shocked that his chin was dragged to his chest. Physically, I can't swim, I just broke the wooden barrel. You tell me this is the future One Piece, King of Pirates. Sorry, this is my boat. You must pay the boat fee when you take the boat. You don't understand this principle, do you? I can work part-time to pay back, I can eat. No, I'm very diligent. The Straw Hat Boy suddenly crossed his fists and palms with a thinking of a good idea expression. By the way, come and be my partner. As long as you become a partner, you don't have to pay for the boat. Ha ha ha, I'm so smart. This time, it's Roman's turn, full of black question marks. You darn, this is preparing a white wolf with empty gloves, right? Right. I refuse. In the face of Roman's unhesitating answer, the Straw Hat Boy opposite looked shocked to the point of, how could it be? Wait a minute, don't you think about it again. By the way, my name is Luffy. The man who wants to be the One Piece King of Pirates. To the grinning Straw Hat Boy, no, Luffy. Roman lowered his head and sneered. Pirates. That's really nice. Slam, la. He opened his arms, and sheets of paper flew out of the palm of his hand, and then quickly turned into a sailor's knife, a shield. Since it's a pirate, let's pay the bill, in the way of a pirate. Roman squinted at the boy named Luffy opposite, with the shield in front and the long knife hidden behind him. Kill me, this ship is. Wow, it's so cool. However, facing Roman who was posing, Luffy just ran over carelessly, surrounded the paper knife and paper shield in his hand, and even touched it. Bang! Are you underestimating me? An icy murderous aura spread from Roman's body. Just now, it was he who smashed the opponent onto the deck with a shield, and even the opponent's precious straw hat fell to the side. Wow, it hurts. Why do I feel pain? Hey, it's actually bleeding. How did you do it? Facing Luffy who was sitting on the ground with blood on his face, but only wondered why he was injured, Roman stepped forward. I have no reason to explain my methods to you, so. Brush. The snow-white sailor's knife pointed to the other's face, and Roman looked down at the other with icy eyes. Get up. Beat me and the ship is yours. If you lose, you are ready to take the springboard. Facing the paper knife that was close at hand, facing the merciless Roman, the boy on the floor just sat casually on the deck and looked at the corner of each other's eyes seriously. I won't fight you. Then you are going to go into the sea to feed the fish. I won't die here either. Wait until you defeat me. I won't fight you. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Bang. The white shield in his hand hit the bridge of the opponent's nose fiercely, smashing the boy's entire head into the deck. At the same time, Roman directly stepped forward and suppressed the opponent under him. Fight and don't fight, roll and don't roll. What the hell do you want to do? Falling into the floor, Luffy with blood on his face raised his head and looked directly at Roman, whose face was full of anger. I said, I want you to be my partner. Partner. Ha 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 ha. Roman, who suppressed the other party under him, laughed, so wildly, tears burst out. Then my ship becomes yours. My life has become your life. You're stupid or you think I'm stupid. Facing Roman's questioning, the boy named Luffy just answered again seriously. I want you to be my partner. Hey, listen to someone. Bang. Once again, a shield smashed the opponent's face, and while smashing Luffy's entire head, it brought out a puddle of blood. Why should I be your partner? Don't talk to yourself. Bang. Another shield. Aren't you going to fight back? Bang. Blood splattered. Partner, let me tell you the truth. I'm a paper man who ate a paper devil fruit. My devil fruit was obtained by killing my captain. You still want me to be your partner? That's right. Luffy's voice was still as firm as ever, in the puddle of blood mixed with the shattered deck. I want you to be my partner. Crazy idiot. Obviously it was a guy who was pressed and beaten by himself, but the upper body of Roman, who had been killed for a long time, unconsciously leaned back. Then. Outraged. Incomprehensible. Clap. The shield and sailor's knife in his hand were rapidly deformed and combined into a sharp decapitation knife, which was aimed at the neck of the young man under him. I know you're a devil fruit power user, you're rubber, right? Don't underestimate the paper in my hand, its hardness is not inferior to that of steel at all, just go down with a knife. However, in the face of Roman's threat, the bloody boy turned his head to look at him, and his eyes were still not shaken. You won't kill me. I want you to be my partner. Hemp egg. Are you a repeater? Kill you. The sailor knife in his hand was raised high, and then suddenly fell. Puff. HMPH. Roman turned the rudder, allowing the merchant ship to make a long appearance in the calm sea. This kind of naive guy deserves to die. On the deck behind him, there was only a crack in blood, and the boy named Luffy has disappeared. Do you think you can survive in this sea just by goodness, what an idiot. Bang! The door of the cabin was suddenly opened, and a boy with a head wrapped like a zongzi came out shouting. Roman, I'm so hungry. Why is the meat in the warehouse so frozen? I can't bite it. You took apart the freezer I made. I'm starving to death. Faced with a face of grievance, God knows this guy can make an expression of grievance, with a treatment tape wrapped around his head. All right. You come over and take the helm, and I'll cook. By the way, restore the freezer. Roman, I won't be at the helm. Roman sucked in a breath of cold air, and his numb scalp made gold stars appear in front of him. Then what are you talking about? Facing Roman, who was gnashing his teeth, Luffy answered without hesitation. I'll be One Piece, King of Pirates. Come on, stand here. Like a punctured balloon, Roman taught Luffy to hold the rudder hand in hand, and then warned him. Just keep this position and don't let the boat run around. I'm going to cook, don't desert me. Roman, who walked over to the cabin in the opposite direction, shook his head helplessly. Really? Looks like I'm just a fool. What insidious and ruthless pirates are you talking about? In the end, I didn't become someone else's crew. Never mind. People who are not in the middle of nowhere are juveniles. Roman can only comfort himself like this, but if there is a mirror. The corners of his raised mouth had something to say. Chapter 4, Marine Kobe's so-called justice. Thank you so much, Luffy. On Roman's boat, a boy with glasses and a midpoint comb turned the rudder while looking at the chart. His name is Kobe, and he was swept as a handyman by the fat woman captain of the Big Stick Pirates. He was able to escape because he hit the Roman duo and is currently a part-time navigator on Roman's ship. Of course, the so-called giant stick pirates are just Roman's complaints. The female captain's real name is Alvida, and after eating the slippery fruit, she turned from a fat woman to a beauty in an instant. As for the previous battle between Roman Luffy and the giant stick pirates, it's about. I got up, punched. Roman is not very proficient in sailing, and Luffy people who dare to go out to sea with small sampans and wooden barrels, don't expect him to light up sailing skills. So Kobe, who is out of the bitter sea, just used his expertise to drive a merchant ship. Now, there are only 3 people on the deck of the 600-ton merchant ship. Kobe sailing, Luffy with a paper bandage on his face, and with the weight on his back, Roman, who was doing push-ups. 998. 999. 1000. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot Luffy, the words of the great root katakana middle dot. The boy with glasses on the boat glanced hesitantly at Roman, who was undulating like a human-shaped pile driver. Compared with Luffy, who made people feel familiar at first sight, this young man named Roman made Kobe feel intimidated. I heard it's called the pirate grave. It's very dangerous. Although they have only known each other for less than a day, Kobe is genuinely worried for his friend, Luffy. Yeah, so I'm looking for some great buddies. The energetic Straw Hat Luffy faces the sea, topping the clouds. By the way, the marine base you're going to, isn't a guy named Zoro, locked up. If he's a nice guy, let him be my partner. No. Kobe shook his head in horror. I heard that Zoro is a bloodthirsty mad dog who enjoys killing people. He is called a devil in human skin by people in this sea. And, definitely because he's a bad guy, Marine got caught. Hee hee. The sneer next to him interrupted Kobe's words, and Roman, who was sweating profusely, stood up, picked up a towel from the bucket next to him, and said casually while wiping his body. Bad people, good people. Marine is the good guy. The one caught by Marine is the bad guy. That's really sorry, it won't take long for your 3 views to be subverted immediately. A great man once said, not taking sides, but good and bad. That's hooliganism. Saying that, Roman pointed to Luffy. Luffy saved you, do you say he's a good guy, or a bad guy? Hey, of course Mr. Luffy is good. But it's this guy. Roman stretched out his hand, and the bandage on Luffy's head automatically spread and flew towards him, revealing a silly face. Gee, this recovery speed is really unscientific. Although Roman's paper bandage is a medical product soaked in various potions, it is too scary to leave a scar in just a few days. It's this good guy who took my boat a few days ago and forced me to be his partner. You said. Roman looked at Kobe calmly, causing the cowardly teenager to turn his face away. Is Luffy still a good guy? I ignored him and shouted, hey, it's obviously yours. Luffy, Roman continued with a sneer. This ship is actually a merchant ship that was chased and killed by the pirates. That pirate group has already been poisoned by their captain, and it can be regarded as an indirect revenge for the merchant ship. Excuse me, is that captain a good guy, or a bad guy? At the same time, that captain was killed by his battle captain, that is, me. Speaking of which, I also sought justice for those dead pirates. Excuse me, am I a good guy, or a bad guy? With a sneer, Roman knocked on the side of the ship again and pointed to the bottom. And this merchant ship actually carried all weapons, which were sold to the royal family to suppress civilians who could not survive. The pirates who killed the caravan, in theory, saved the lives of tens of millions of people. Ask, are the pirates good people, or bad people? Extend it further, the king who bought the weapon was to suppress the disorderly people, to maintain stability, while the civilians who resisted just simply couldn't survive. Ask them both, who is the good guy? Who is the bad guy? This. Facing Roman's series of questions, Kobe with glasses was speechless. Justice or not, it's just a touch of lips. Anyone can find a just excuse for their actions if they want to. So smart people know how to whitewash themselves as justice, such as the sand crocodile, such as Ming Jie, such as the worm in marine. And only some idiots call themselves One Piece king of pirates every day. Saying that, Roman glanced at someone wearing a straw hat, but what caught his eye was a silly face full of question marks. But I believe that justice must exist. Clap la. Brush. A paper knife ran across his neck, interrupting Kobe's rebuttal. Justice for the weak is just a slogan. Like now, Roman's body began to fill with cold murderous aura. I only need to wave my hand, and your justice will be ashes. Okay. A hand was placed between Roman and Kobe, and Luffy's steady voice interrupted their argument. Roman, don't scare Kobe. Clap la. The paper knife in his hand collapsed and turned into paper again to integrate into Roman's arm. I'm just telling the truth, Luffy. The one with more people is justice. The weaker side is justice. The one who is bullied is justice. Stop joking. How do you know that your justice is not evil in the eyes of others? It is not justice that human beings rely on to stand on top of all things, and justice is not such a weak thing. Justice is stronger than evil, wiser than evil, better than evil. Okay, Roman. Dumbness on Luffy's face was gone, only seriousness remained. Justice or something, I don't understand and don't want to understand. It's my friend who fits in well. If you don't like it, I'll beat you up. Luffy heartily ended the argument. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Ha ha ha. Roman, who was stunned for a moment, laughed and shook his head. That's right, what's the truth, what's the justice? What is pleasing to the eye as a friend, and what is not pleasing to the eye as an enemy? It's that simple. Very good, to Marine Base. Quote. Standing on the dock, Luffy shouted with one arm on his hips. Looking at his excitement, who would have thought he was a pirate? Those who didn't know thought he was a Marine relative, etc. This guy seems to be a Marine relative. Kobe, you are amazing. Luffy sighed sincerely, which even Roman had to admit. 3 men, 1 layman and 1 muggle, were driving a merchant ship of several hundred tons. Successfully reached the destination. This has. Luffy, if you really want to sail, you'd better find a professional navigator, drifting is. Eat. However, Luffy didn't listen to what he said at all, and rushed towards the port in a flash. Let's go. Roman patted Kobe on the shoulder, making the cowardly teenager tremble. Although I don't like you very much, but... Who called you the captain's friend? After this meal, you will be your marine, and we will continue to be our pirates. Although it is estimated that in the future of my pirate career, I won't be serious about doing a pirate's sail again if you eat the Overlord's meal. Forget it. The dignified traveler represents the face of a billion earthlings. Forget the Overlord meal or something. So. I am so full. Boss, how much is it? After making a bunch of empty plates, Roman got up to check out. Counting on Luffy to have the concept of money is as magical as counting on Tenryubito to know what mercy is. As for Kobe, could the handyman who was bullied in the Big Stick Pirates have something like Bailey? By the way, that Zoro is right here at this marine base. For a moment, the entire restaurant was quiet, and everyone's movements were a meal. Hey, Luffy, look. Kobe whispered to the outspoken Luffy. Everyone was terrified, and sure enough, that Zoro was a big badass. That's it. Facing Luffy, who was suddenly enlightened, Kobe said with a sigh of relief. By the way, I just looked at the notice. The top commander of the base here is a colonel named Monka. Clang clang. Just now, everyone in the restaurant seemed to have been cast on the fixing technique, as if they had heard some forbidden curse. Their faces changed greatly, they just stood up and ran. Hey, you haven't paid yet. Roman, who shouted helplessly, turned around and nodded apologetically to the proprietress. Sorry, it looks like my friend got you in trouble. No, not in the way. Facing the trembling lady boss, Roman could only shrug, then turned back, holding one in each hand. Go, Luffy. And you. Chapter 5 Hunter Zoro pulls in. Ha ha ha, the people at that store are so funny. There is no malice, the way those guests fled in embarrassment just now was purely interesting to Luffy. Not right. And Kobe didn't have Luffy's strong mentality. He looked around nervously and quickly analyzed the situation. It's understandable that people are afraid to hear Zoro's name. Why they hear Colonel Monka also? It's simple. Roman on the other side gave the answer directly. That said, the Marine base colonel scares people more than the pirate hunter. No, impossible. Ha ha. Facing Kobe with the Marine dream in his arms, Roman just raised his chin not far away. Yes or not, don't you know if you go and see for yourself? At the end of the road is a magnificent Marine base. Towering walls, densely packed turrets, and flying Marine flags. All give a strong and powerful feeling. Only, as expected of a military center, let alone buildings, there are no pedestrians. Roman sighed casually, not knowing if it was the truth or sarcasm. As the three came to the closed gate of the base. Go on, Kobe. Luffy pressed the straw hat and pointed to the Marine base in front of him. I'm going to see what kind of person that Zoro is. Regardless of the tangled Kobe, Luffy jumped on the fence and looked at the center of the vast square of Marine base. Is that the guy? In the center of Marine Square, a man is tied to a cross-shaped wooden frame. It was a man in a dark green headscarf with short green hair under the headscarf, 3 golden drop-shaped earrings in his left ear, a white t-shirt on his upper body, a green belly roll around his waist, and dark green trousers. Black boots. Of course, the most striking thing is his eyes. Sharp as a knife, wild as a beast. Just by looking at it, it will give birth to the illusion of being torn and cut. Strong. Roman, who made a ladder under his feet with paper, squinted his eyes. The opponent's strength was almost on par with his former captain, who sank into the sea with the wind and waves. However, Zoro in this period probably hasn't mastered chopping iron yet. In terms of physical fitness, Zoro should have the advantage, but in swordsmanship, it is not as good as the captain, who can burst out the ability to cut iron. Anime that I watched many years ago, plus travel through several years. To be honest, apart from the main 4 emperors, Shichibukai, and the protagonist group, Roman's memory of One Piece King of Pirates has long been blurred. Hey, you guys. The man who was tied to the stake raised his head, and even though he was in prison, he still did not lose a trace of his spirit. Come here and untie the rope for me. I will repay you. I can give you the money for catching wanted pirates in the future. It's kind of interesting. Roman folded his hands and tilted his head to look at Luffy, who was lying on the wall. Luffy, what do you think? That rope looks like it's easy to break free. Hey, Luffy, you're focusing on the wrong point. Kobe on the side stopped anxiously, for fear that the two lawless guys beside him slapped his head and released the criminal in the square. If you let him go, the people in this town, and you and I will all be killed. No, he can't kill me. Luffy, who has been acting goofy, confident Isho, I'm strong too. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Snapped. Just as the 3 of them were watching the play, a ladder stood beside them, and then a little girl gave the 3 of them a fierce stare, and after warning them not to make a sound, she quickly climbed over the wall. Jump into Marine Base. Big brother, I made rice balls for you. You're looking for death, kid, get out. This is my first time doing. Don't understand. I told you to get out. Tisk tisk, it's not right to bully children, Roronoa Zoro. With a frivolous voice, a guy who only had second ancestor written on his face walked out of the Marine Base with duck steps, followed by 2 Marine soldiers. Be careful what I tell my dad. Cut, I will only rely on my father's waist. What is this? The rice ball to console Marine. The second ancestor snatched the little girl's rice ball and took a bite, then. From the new group. Bah, what's in the rice ball? Sugar, what the hell kind of cooking? Be careful what I tell my dad. After throwing the rice ball on the ground and stomping on it, the second ancestor ordered the little girl to be thrown out. Then he walked away angrily. He didn't even comment on the 3 spectators on the fence, making Roman secretly think about whether this guy is also an interstellar player. Remember that this guy seems to have changed his mind later. And also wear an eye mask. I'm afraid it's not really blind. Thank you, big brother. It's okay. Roman waved his hand and patted the little girl who was thrown out of the fence and caught by him. Go home quickly, it's dangerous here. Marine Base is dangerous. Kobe next to him is hesitant to say anything, hesitant to move forward. He is in a dilemma, difficult. Hey, you guys are still there, aren't you afraid that the second ancestor will tell his father? Meanwhile, Luffy had jumped into Marine Base and stood in front of the man tied to the stake. Don't be afraid. For the stubborn Luffy, what Colonel Monka, what Marine Base can I eat it? I'm looking for a companion to go out to sea with me as a pirate. Pirates. What a selfish fellow. Hey, help pick up that rice ball. Are you going to eat this? It's already full of mud. Facing Luffy's disgust, the man named Zoro just opened his mouth. Noisy. Give me. Click, click, swallow. Bring me a word for that little girl. The hooded man lowered his head. The rice balls are delicious, thank you. Hello, your captain is gone. The same square, the same man tied to the stake. But this time, it was Roman who stood in front of him. What are you doing here, pirate? Well, I was thinking. Roman touched his smooth chin with one hand thoughtfully. How many days have you been tied here? 9 days, what's wrong? You. Roman's gaze fell on Zoro's lower 3 lanes, making the other party feel uncomfortable. I don't think my pants are full of shit or something. I killed you. I killed you. Don't get excited. Don't get excited. Don't blame me if you can't hold back. Roman waved his hand. Well, let's get down to business. I think you like Luffy very much, so he will definitely come back and pull you on board in a while, then. Roman waved his hand and made a paper chair on the spot to sit down. I'll just wait here. Hello. Sure enough, it didn't take long for Luffy to leave and return, making Zoro's eyes twinkle while tied to the stake. If you're trying to persuade me to be a pirate, I'll help you untie the rope, so be my companion. Listen to people. I don't care, I have decided to make you my partner. Don't make up your own mind. By the way, I heard that you are a very powerful swordsman. What about the sword? Luffy changed the subject in a second, making Zoro, who was tied down, a little unable to react. It was taken away. It was second only to my life. Very good. Luffy slapped his fists and looked like he thought of another good idea. I'll go get your knife, and you'll be my partner. You so despicable. It's a pity that after Luffy left a sentence, you don't move around here. I'll go back when I go, and then ran to the marine base in a hurry. This guy an idiot. Ha 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 ha. Roman, who was watching the whole play next to him, stood up with a smile and waved his hand. The chair on the ground broke down into sheets of paper and fell into his hand, and then turned into a sailor knife. How about you? Have you seen how difficult that guy is? Roman turned the paper knife in his hand into a knife. Don't think about it. The guy that Luffy took a fancy to. In the end, the only way to go is to get on the boat obediently. Are you human traffickers? And, what's there to be proud of? Facing the furious Zoro, Roman just shrugged his shoulders while holding back his smile. No, I'm just happy to see someone end up with the same end as me. That's all. Chapter 6 Memory Oath Official Partner. HMPH, I don't need your help at all. However, the green algae head tied to the stake didn't seem to appreciate it. As long as I live for a month, they will let me go. As long as I keep the promise. Step. However, a rush of footsteps interrupted Zoro's words. A teenager with glasses and a midpoint comb ran over the wall at some point. The panting appearance indicated that he had arrived as quickly as possible, but... What are you doing here? Roman asked knowingly, but Kobe, who was leaning on his knees, couldn't care to answer Roman, and just looked anxiously at Zoro, who was bound. You've been deceived. They're not going to let you go at all. The second-generation ancestor said it himself, and he will execute you tomorrow. Speaking of Zoro, who was surprised, the boy named Kobe lowered his head sadly, not letting the tears be seen by the two present, but his voice with a crying voice all showed his inner excitement. Luffy and I both know you're not a bad person. You were only arrested for protecting the town's people and killing the wolf raised by the second-generation ancestor. To be intimidating, to oppress civilians, to lie again and again. Such a marine, such a marine. Clang. The sailor knife in Roman's hand stretched out like lightning and stopped in front of Kobe. The harsh crash made Kobe, who was blackened, so frightened that tears and snot solidified on his face. Happened. Puff. With a slight shake, a deformed lead bullet slipped from Roman's sailor knife and fell to the ground. Obviously we were attacked. The reason was used was because Roman didn't believe that someone could precisely aim a flintlock gun from the roof of the marine base at someone tens of meters away. The greater probability is that the other party just fired a random shot at this place. As for who was hit, then see who is unlucky. HMPH, if you don't want to die, get out of here. Zoro, who was tied up, started chasing people with a nasty tone. Boom. At the same time, a statue was slowly erected on the roof of marine base. Then, suddenly crooked. The statue is about to fall. The statue is falling. The statue has fallen. In the voice of the three people, the statue that had just been erected smashed into two pieces on the roof. Then the upper body snapped. A human head fell on the edge of the square and broke into pieces of rubble. As well as, "Ah! What have you done? Kill him for me." Even if they were tens of meters away, the three people in the square could hear the panic on the roof of the base opposite, gunshots and roars. It appears to be, "Hey, that guy is too stupid." In less than half a minute, was discovered by Marine. Zoro, who was tied and starved for 9 days, felt his blood pressure soaring, and even gave birth to a force out of thin air. That's it. He brazenly said to help him get the knife back, only to be found by Marine when he turned around. In an instant, the entire Marine base was like a hornet's nest that was stabbed. All kinds of noises are messed up. In the square, facing the motionless Roman, the man named Zoro couldn't help but speak. "Pirate, aren't you going to help? Your captain is going to be shot dead. Although there are countless strong men in this world, this is the weakest, East Blue after all." In Zoro's current cognition, when people are killed, they will die. Not to mention bullets, even if you accidentally fall, you may die. Ha, Luffy wouldn't die in a place like this. Roman waved his hand easily. Instead of worrying about others, worry about yourself. Tread, step. In the dense footsteps, a group of Marine soldiers ran out of the base building. The dark muzzle in his hand pointed at the Roman trio in the square. "Raise your hand. Who are you? Intruder, shoot." Bang bang bang. In a series of gunshots, the whistling lead bullets flew towards Roman, and Kobe next to him, who made the two of them stand in the center of the square. Paper dance, shield. Slam, la. A large amount of paper spewed out of the palm, instantly forming a huge, tower shield, in front of him. While Ping Pong Pong Vice Admiral's bullets were intercepted, he also protected Kobe beside him. It's really interesting. A tall man wearing a Marine colonel's cape, an iron hoop on his chin, and a giant axe in his right hand strode out of the Marine soldiers. Colonel Monka. The master of this Marine base. How many mice just want to challenge my majesty? Your insignificant power, in front of my power. As he waved his hand, the muzzles of the Marine's black holes were aimed at the three of them. This time, Zoro, who was tied to the stake, was also included. Hey, why even me? Prepare. However, the other side didn't want or listen to Zoro's nonsense at all. All the soldiers were just skillfully loading, aiming, and preparing to launch. Me, how could I die in such a place? I still have a promise to fulfill. That pirate, give me your shield. At a critical juncture, even this steel-like man who had been hungry for 9 days under the scorching sun had to bow his head to ask Roman who beside him for help, but unfortunately, I refuse. Don't get me wrong, it's not me, Luffy who's pulling you on board. Roman tilted his head and glanced at the desperate Zoro, his face expressionless, but something flashed in Vivi's raised eyes. I have no reason to save you. I am a pirate. Am I going to die here? It was clearly agreed. The world's #1 swordsman. Kuina. Gecko. The double knife boy and the single knife girl fought back and forth, and the result of the battle was 2001 times, failed. Damn, so unwilling. Being knocked to the ground, the green-haired boy looked unwilling. Why can't I just beat you, Kuina? It's me who's not reconciled. However, the girl who defeated him was even more unwilling. Even hugging your knees and crying, didn't you see, it's taking me longer and longer to beat you. As they get older, the physical advantage of boys will become more and more obvious. My father said, girls can't become the world's #1 swordsman. It's so despicable to say such things when you win. Facing the crying girl, the boy with short green hair with 2 knives was furious. Could it be that you will use this as an excuse when you lose to me that day? I can always take you as a goal and exercise every day to surpass you. I won't allow you to say such depressing words. The two knife boys stood in front of the crying girl and made a promise. Let's have a try. The 2002 game, one day, you or me will become the world's #1 swordsman. Let's see who's the winner this time. Idiot. The girl wiped away her tears and cried and laughed. Obviously it's just a defeated general. Okay, I've made an appointment with you. However, the next day died. The boys, enemy of life, died so quietly, the girl just fell down the stairs when she was going to get the whetstone, and actually. Master, can you give me Kuina's knife? The expressionless boy took the girl's knife and tied 3 weapons around his waist. We agreed that one day. I want to take you to become the world's #1 swordsman. How can it be? How could I die in such a place? Kuina, our promise. Countless lead bullets are reflected in the pupils. Even Zoro's well-trained body is nothing but flesh and blood. Under such an attack. Is it? Brush. In a flash, a figure stood in front of Zoro. It was a figure wearing a straw hat, wearing a red waistcoat, and holding his 3 katana swords in his hands. Puff puff puff. The dense buckshot all hit him, stunned Zoro who had just passed the marquee behind him. You. Wood, big. Useless. However, before Zoro could stage the sadness scene, Luffy, who was helping him block the bullet, suddenly stretched his body, and the lead bullets, dented into his body immediately returned to the same path. The marine soldier who fired the shot shot a man on his back. Hey. You who are you? Facing the shocked Zoro, Luffy who turned his head was confident Isho. I'm Luffy. The man who wants to be the One Piece King of Pirates. Said and handed the 3 knives in his hand to Zoro. I don't know which one your knives are, so I brought them all. All 3 are mine. Call. Zoro, who had walked on the line of life and death, let out a sigh of relief. Some things seemed less important, and some things became more precious. Hey, it's better to die here than being a pirate with you. Brush. A flash of knife light flashed, and the ropes tied to Zoro were all broken. Roman Vivi Isho took a knife. I'm Roman. Tokovic, Roman. At the same time, he stretched out his hand to support Zoro, who almost fell softly to the ground after being suddenly released. Then, please take care of me in the future. Partner. Chapter 7 Take the Colonel lightly identify with the captain. This actually bounced the bullet back. And that guy, the weapon in his hand will deform. Looks like paper. Ordinary marine soldiers were horrified by this magical scene, but Colonel Monka, the base commander, was well informed. Don't panic, those 2 guys just ate the devil fruit. Devil fruit. The secret treasure of the sea. This. HMPH. The so-called devil fruit is just a trick of street performers. Since the bullet can't work, use the sword. The tall Monka glanced at the melee marine soldiers next to him, and the axe in his right hand pointed forward. Go on, kill them. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Come on. Kill. Ah. In the face of the commanders, give me, a group of marine soldiers shouting various slogans can only bite the bullet and rush to kill, and then they are faced with 3 knives. With 1 hand and 1 knife in the mouth, the 3 samurai swords instantly met the swords of the marine soldiers, and all the soldiers who attacked by Vice Admiral blocked it. At the same time. I'll cut whoever moves. The biting murderous aura shocked the group of marine soldiers to the point of trembling. Zoro's gaze made their hands and feet stiff, as if ice slag was flowing in their blood. I owe you my life, so I promise to be a pirate with you. Even with more than a dozen swords, the man named Zoro did not frown. However, some things still need to be made clear. But I also have ambitions of my own. The target of his speech, of course, was the captain who agreed to join the other party's pirates, Luffy. I want to become the world's #1 swordsman. If you dare to force me to give up my dream, then I want you to apologize in front of me. Want to recruit me? Then take up my dream, or else. Facing Zoro's killing intent Ling Ran's words, Roman raised his brows, while Luffy was just grinning isho. Of course, the world's #1 swordsman, as a partner of One Piece King of Pirates is perfect. Why are you still standing still? The soldiers who rushed up were so frightened by Zoro that they didn't dare to move. The furious Monka swung his axe directly and chopped down a soldier who was so frightened that the muzzle in his hand was aimed at the ground. Shoot! Kill those scumbags! However, it was such an outrageous order. In front of Menka's Jiwei and the model, who had just been cut down, the soldiers with guns had to aim their weapons with trembling hands. Luffy, Zoro, and their colleagues. Paper dance, crossbow. Emission. Puff puff. Ah. What? Snapped. The sound of a series of arm being pierced mixed with the screams and exclamations of many soldiers, and the sound of guns landing, was Roman who was slowly approaching those marine soldiers. Hey, there is a limit to underestimating people. In his hands are 2 pure white crossbows. These are made from Roman's abilities and fire arrows made of paper, but the power of the flintlock guns of marine soldiers will never be lost. I don't object if you want to kill your own people. The crossbow in his hand automatically winds up, generates arrows, and then aims. But taking action against my companion is the same as taking action against me. Then you can fight back. This guy is the battle captain of the Silver Light Pirates. Counterattack, Roman. After all, it is also a head worth 10 million Baileys. Roman's face is not a small deterrent in East Blue. By the way, the original Silver Light Pirates was not a local force from East Blue, but the wandering pirates who were driven here from North Blue. Why, you bastard, could it be that the Silver Light Pirates is nearby? Facing Roman, even Colonel Monka, who thought he was great, couldn't help but panic. As the Silver Light Pirates with a total bounty of more than 40 million, its strength is definitely not something that an ordinary marine base in East Blue can handle. Monka was the one who captured hundreds, Kuro with a bounty of 16 million before he won the throne of this colonel. Don't worry, there is no Silver Light Pirates in this world. Facing Marine who is like an enemy, Roman pointed his thumb back. Now I'm part of the Straw Hat Pirates. Huh. A fast-moving red figure had already passed Roman and charged towards the Colonel Monka. Well, it looks like someone can't wait. Bang. Luffy's fist slammed hard on the opponent's axe, forcibly knocking the tall Colonel Marine one step back. Hey, I'm your enemy. Come and fight with me if you have the ability. Killing one's own comrades is the most disgusting thing. HMPH, nobody. I'm Colonel Marine, Monka the Axe. In the face of the furious Monka, Luffy reported himself with a cute face. Oh, I'm Luffy, please advise. Who made you? The huge axe in the right hand slashed horizontally, and with a harsh tear sound, it instantly cut the surrounding wall in half. I introduced myself. The momentum is heavy, but unfortunately it's too slow. Under Roman's leisurely comments, this Colonel Marine's axe has really gone unnoticed. Luffy just jumped agilely in place, and easily dodged the opponent's attack, and then bang! He casually kicked the opponent in the face, causing the Colonel Marine to stumble back a few big steps on the spot. You're dead. Monka, who was already extremely angry, steadied his body and immediately threw himself towards him and slashed down, opening a long crack in the stone marine square on the spot. But I won't die. The agile one turned around to avoid the opponent's axe, and then pulled out a whip leg. Snapped. Monka, who was kicked on the temple, immediately fell down with a tall body of more than 2 meters, and was immediately grabbed by Luffy's collar, and the other fist was raised high. What Marine, you ruined Kobe's dream, from Shin Shaochun. Stop. Bang. However, Luffy's fist continued to fall, and after a hard punch, he stood up and turned to look at the place where the sound came from. I told you to stop. The one who shouted was the second ancestor, the son of Colonel Monka Marine Base. I don't know when he touched this battlefield and was using a short-handled flintlock pistol against Kobe's head. The threat was self-evident. You move again and I'll kill him. R.O. Luffy. Don't worry about me, even if I die, I don't want to be a burden. It has to be said that at the juncture of life and death, one can see the true colors. Kobe, who was originally timid and cowardly, did not tremble at this moment. Good. Hey, only rely on Dad's guy. Luffy first nodded to Kobe, then pointed to the second-generation ancestor. Give it up, Kobe is serious. A man won't hurt his friends just because he threatens. However, behind Luffy, a tall figure has quietly stood up. The giant axe in his hand was raised high. Don't move or I'll shoot. Luffy, watch your back. In the face of an unconcealed ecstasy, a desperately reminded the two of them that the boy named Luffy just pressed his straw hat. Roman. Understand. Puff. Pat. The short gun in his hand fell to the ground. The second-generation ancestor looked at the paper arrow that shot through his palm, and after a moment of stunned, he let out a terrifying scream. Ah, my hand. On the other side, behind Luffy, Colonel Monka, who raised his axe high, was as motionless as a statue. After a second, he slowly fell backwards, and Luffy, who was holding onto his straw hat and didn't look back, gave Isho a cheesy grin. Good job. Zoro. Behind the fallen Monka, Zoro with 3 knives was revealed. A piece of cake. The man biting the katana replied. Captain. Chapter 8 Pirate Thief Nautical Nami. I'm so stupid, really. Roman raised his dull eyes and continued. I just knew Luffy was an idiot with 0 sailing skills. I didn't know anyone was the same. I started the boat early in the morning and asked someone to drive. He looked very reliable, with sharp eyes and a serious expression. When I made breakfast, I asked where I was, but I didn't answer. I went out and took a look. Knowing seas. Roman then sighed, unable to utter a sentence. Ha ha ha. Luffy rolled around laughing on the deck. What, Zoro, you're a lunatic. A certain swordsman who looked reliable widened his eyes. How can you smear someone's innocence out of thin air? What innocence? Didn't you say it yourself? Because I got lost and couldn't find my hometown, and I had no money, I had to start the pirate hunter business. Zoro blushed, and the blue veins on his forehead burst out, arguing. Traveling doesn't count as getting lost traveling. Swordsman, can it count as getting lost? Then there are some incomprehensible words like, death is like the wind, always with me. What? The sword cuts the body, the heart cuts the soul. If I knew it earlier, I left that Kobe guy behind. Rubbing his temples, Roman forced himself to ignore the 2 navigating idiots on the deck, spread out the chart, and adjusted the direction while calculating the position. No, you must find a navigator as soon as possible, or you will be haunted by these bullshit things all day long. Do you still want to exercise? Do you want to develop fruit? There are also chefs who must be recruited as soon as possible to cook for these 2 guys every day. Those who know are pirates, those who don't know think I'm a nanny. Roman tries to memories while sailing the boat. Sailor Shinami, Chef Sanji. Where are these 2 unfortunate children now? Wow, Zoro, Roman. Look, there is a bird in the sky. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Don't bother me, why don't you say there are planes in the sky? Rubber. Rocket. Roman doesn't bother to care about the over-energized Luffy playing tricks, and seriously considers the dangerous he will encounter in the future. Logatown, Sand Crocodile, Gecko Moria, Sky Island, and a headache. With so many powerful enemies, did they all expect Luffy to fail? Absolutely not. It is Roman's character to act cautiously and prepare well, otherwise he will not be alive now. Ah, I'm stuck. Help, Roman. What are you doing flying? Fly, fly, fly away. Looking at the sound, Roman looked at Luffy, who was grabbed by a big bird in the sky, and took a deep breath again. Numb, numb. Really numb all over. You are so stupid, huh? A devil fruit person who falls into the water is equivalent to death. In the vast sea, what is it that gives you such courage to play tricks? 6-eyed flying fish. Zoro, come and sail. It was decided that after getting that guy back, I must beat him with a chainsaw shield. Paper dance, wings. Clap. 2 white wings made of paper appeared behind Roman, turning him into a birdman, and soaring into the sky. Hey hey hey, I don't know the direction. The shouts from behind made Roman, who had just soared into the sky, almost plunged into the sea, and finally began to wonder if he was on the wrong boat. Huh. Bang. A piece of feathery white paper flew back and stuck on the deck, swaying in the wind, pointing in the direction of Roman in the sky like a compass. And the voice of his moving away. Go in the direction it's pointing, I'll go after that idiot Luffy first. I'm stupid, really. Romance, who incarnated as Xiang Lin's wife, waves his wings diligently, striding across the sky like a giant bird. But, after all, he is a human, not a bird. Even if he relies on paper fruit to gain flight ability, he cannot compare with real birds. Even if he tried his best, he was just hanging far behind. What's more, the time for Roman to obtain the fruit is only a few months, and the development level is not enough to realize many slapstick operations. I hope that the big bird has enough physical strength to support it to land. Roman can only comfort himself like this now. If the big bird with Luffy in his mouth is too weak to plunge into the sea, Roman, the land duck, who also ate the devil fruit, really can only do it stared. How could I be fooled into the boat by such a fool in the first place? Although Roman complained, he flapped his wings hard behind him, and at the same time began to think about the solution to this situation in the future. Looks like I have to get that thing as soon as possible. In this way, Roman chased the big bird and Luffy in front of him and galloped past Luffy. On the way, I ignored the 3 unlucky bastards struggling in the sea and flew for a long time. Just when Roman was sweating profusely and was exhausted, he was already sighing, "My life is over," when a khaki color appeared in the distance. Land. In an instant, both the exhausted Roman and the big bird in front suddenly accelerated. Just get there, just get there. Boom. As they approached, a seaside town appeared in Roman's eyes. And the big bird that just flew over the town was falling straight down with thick smoke with a bang, and it was probably bombarded by someone, of course. It also included Luffy, who was caught by it. Good fight. Seeing that his own captain was bombarded, Roman, who landed on the dock, clapped his hands and applauded loudly, wishing the other party would bombard him a few more times. Wonderful. Woo, whoa. That idiot. The panting Roman looked at the direction of the crash, then shook his head. On land, what else could be dangerous? Let's drink some water and take a rest, and then go and see if that idiot number 1 is dead. Speaking of which, whether idiot number 2 can successfully drive the ship here is really a serious question. In just a few days, the image of Luffy and Zoro in Roman's heart has been falling again and again, and is about to fall below the lower limit. This has to make Roman suspect that if there were no other people, the miserable situation of the two of them must be beyond imagination. Hey, you are so strong, why don't we work together? On the streets of the town, several pirates with bruised faces were lying on the ground, while Luffy patted his pants unscathed. On the roof next to him, a young girl with short orange hair was sitting, looking at Luffy, who easily beat up a few pirates with great interest. Who are you? Facing Luffy's question, the girl held a scroll of charts in one hand, and made a money gesture in a circle with her thumb and index finger in the other hand. I'm Nami. A thief who only steals from pirates. I have a chart of the Great Route in my hand, let's work together. The girl named Nami suggested, I'll make plans, you'll be in charge of the battle, and the account will be divided into 3 or 7 after the fact. How about it? Boss. Anyone who wants to come, this girl is very good. She takes 30% of her own 70%. For her cuteness, it's not impossible to divide her into 10%. No, I'm not working with you. It's a pity that she is not facing a normal person, who really sees money and beauty as a cloud of steel, a straight rubber man. Facing Luffy, who refused to leave, Nami quickly jumped off the roof. Wait, do you want to give you more than half of it? Hey, you separated from your companions. Yeah, Roman and Zoro. On the second floor of the empty town restaurant, Luffy sat opposite a girl named Nami. Zoro is a great swordsman. Roman is a serious. Thinking of Roman, Luffy suddenly lay on the table like a deflated ball. It's over, Roman will definitely beat me. And it hurts to be beaten by him. Why, aren't you mates? Because I was taken away by a bird. What kind of nonsense is this? Reason Nami is speechless. You might as well say, my bird was taken away, to be more reliable. It seems that although this Straw Hat Boy is very strong, there seems to be a problem with his brain. If Roman was here, he would definitely make Nami feel more confident and remove the seam directly. Stop talking about that, let's get down to business. With this chart, I can go to the Great Route to steal the treasures of those pirates. I believe that I will soon be able to save 100 million Baileys and buy the village. Do you have a wealth of sailing knowledge? Luffy, you call him stupid, he is a real joker a lot of the time. But when it comes to the critical moment, he is always the most able to grasp the key point. Like now, in just a few words, he already had a clear understanding of the nature and specialties of the girl in front of him. Of course, Nami with short orange hair had absolute confidence on her face. When it comes to sailing knowledge, I will never lose to anyone. That's great, we're going to the Great Route too, come and be our navigator. Really? Of course, our pirates are definitely #1 in the world. Don't do it. Cut, after a long time, it turns out that you are a pirate. The young girl Nami, who was still enthusiastic just now, stood up with a look of boredom and waved her hand. Forget it, I'm not looking for you to cooperate. Why? This time, it was Luffy's turn with a black question mark on his face. Why did the girl who had been pulling him to join, just now suddenly turned his face? Is it? Listen, in this world, I hate pirates the most. I like money and oranges. The girl put her hands on the table and was furious. I'm dead. Out of death, jump out of here. I will never get on your boat. Chapter 9 The Clown Buggy and the Tiger Seek Skin. Damn. On the roof of the largest building in the town, a group of pirates squatted here. If you can't even catch a thief, what's the use of leaving you? Are you doing a juggling? Among a group of pirates, the pirate captain sitting on the throne was furious, and his huge nose was blushing. The captain was dressed as a clown, with a white skull pattern on his forehead, 2 blue scratches on his eyes, a big red nose, and red lipstick. Wearing a clown hat with long blue hair hanging from the hat. He was wearing red and white long sleeves, a purple scarf around his neck, white gloves, blue pants, clown shoes on his feet, and a captain's trench coat behind him. Although this shape is really powerless to complain, but the deterrent. Captain, it's not just the female thief, she also has a boss, a very powerful expert. Several pirates with bruised noses and swollen faces hurriedly explained, to the effect of, it's not that our army doesn't work hard, but there is a Gundam on the opposite side. What, master, how many floors are there? Captain. The doorman came up to report. The thief brought it to the door by himself. Very well, bring it up. Wait, she came back by herself. What is this operation? I don't understand. Forget it, let's see what the other party has to say. The captain dressed as a clown waved his hand, and immediately someone went downstairs and brought him up. That is. Bang. A sturdy Luffy tied with a rope was thrown to the ground, while Nami with short orange hair faced the vicious pirates around him, as well as the Captain Bibi Isho dressed as a clown. Captain Buggy, he made me steal the chart. I took him to you, and brought back the chart too. Nami, you lied to me. Luffy, who was tied up by the opponent's sudden attack, wriggled on the ground like a caterpillar. Ah, this. Good job. Although I don't know what the situation is, the B-grid still needs to be maintained. The clown liked Captain Buggy Isho, but what's going on? I had a falling out with my boss. The girl named Nami replied calmly. I've had enough of him, so please let me follow you. And Luffy, who was locked in the iron cage by the side, could only pout angrily, HMPH, I don't want you to be my partner anymore. Ah, this. Ha, had enough. Ha 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 ha, what an interesting woman. Nami's words first stunned the pirates on the roof, and then burst into laughter. Very good, very good. Quote. The clown-looking Captain Buggy stood up and spread his arms. The charts of the great routes are lost and found. I got a new partner. Come to the feast, little ones. He announced loudly. Cheer, eat and drink. Then, go all out for the next fight. Oh oh oh. Long live Captain Buggy. A cup to the captain. A cup of treasure toast. It's done. The seven-handed pirates quickly brought all kinds of beer, cooked food, knives and forks to the plate. Then spontaneously formed a small group to start the happiest time of the pirates. Eating meat with big mouths, drinking in big bowls, and sharing gold with big scales. The newcomer, let's fight wine. Okay. After drinking a few pirates in one breath, the atmosphere at the scene was even higher. On the edge, a pirate who can't drink enough is both envious and fearful, looking at the girl who is smiling and arrogant, and turns his elbows to the person who is burying his head and eating meat. Hey, do you want to try it too? No, I don't drink. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Ah, that's a pity. The pirate who couldn't drink enough forked a piece of meat and put it in his mouth, as if he had overlooked something in a trance. Humph, my alcohol intake is not that big. After overturning several pirates in a row, Nami is proud of Isho, who has never had a new challenger. As long as she continues to drink like this, when these pirates are all drunk, she can also steal the nautical chart again, and she can also steal the treasure of this buggy pirate group, by the way. The so-called pirates are such a group of simple-minded things. Hey hey. In front of the pirates who were eating and drinking wildly, Luffy, who was locked in an iron cage and starved, started angrily, eat iron. Click, click, click. It was a good tooth mouth, and the iron cage was grinding out tooth marks. Hi, boss. Squatting in front of the cage, the girl named Nami looked at Luffy in the cage. How do you feel? You are so easily deceived, you dare to call yourself a pirate. I'm hungry. From Shin Chao-chun. I want to eat meat too. However, their thoughts were not on the same channel at all, and Nami, who felt that she was playing the piano to the cow, had no choice but to put the food in her hand into the iron cage. It feels like feeding something, and then chew, chew. Delicious. You're a good man, still be my partner. In the face of Luffy, whose attitude turned again, Nami was speechless. I don't want it. Do you know your situation? You will be sold as a slave, and you will have to die miserably in the mine. However, she changed her words, if everything goes well, it's not impossible for me to steal a key and put you there, by the way. PFF ha ha ha. At this moment, the sound of footsteps and exaggerated laughter from behind interrupted Nami's words, and the clown-like Captain Buggy stepped over. The one in the straw hat, you have good men. She's not mine. I understand, after all she betrayed you. Captain Buggy waved his hand, generously, but in the next second, he lowered his head, and the dark horror climbed onto his face. Anyway, you shouldn't have stolen my buggy's head, he said with a wave of his hand. Pull that over here. Rumbling. A huge front-loading smoothbore gun was pushed over. Although it was only the oldest firearm, the sturdy gun body and the barrel that could stuff people into it all showed how terrifying it was. The direction in which the muzzle is aimed is exactly Luffy in an iron cage. "This is the Buggy bomb I made," said the clown-looking Captain Buggy, holding out a cannonball the size of a human head. His pirate standard is also drawn on it. One shot can go through a building. As the shells were loaded, the leads were reinstalled, and a box of matches was shoved into Nami's hands. "Come on, Nami." The clown-like Buggy pointed to the straw hat Luffy in the iron cage. "Give your ex-boss a ride with my Buggy, and take over the world with me." In an instant, cold sweat fell from the face of the girl named Nami. Pirates. Not just simple-minded, but hell of evil. Hey, Captain Buggy. Don't let this guy spoil our interest." The girl with a stiff face tried to get through it. "Let's continue drinking. Kill him." However, Captain Buggy, who looked like a clown next to him, just glanced at her, and Nami was speechless with the cold murderous aura, and then the other party threw the captain's coat and turned and left gracefully. "Blow him up. Blow him up. Hurry up. Ha ha ha. The bet is on. Look at the last pieces that guy has left. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot." The pirates were laughing wildly all around, and in an instant, the pirates who were drinking and chatting, simple and honest, just now showed their extremely evil fangs. "Too bad if I don't kill this guy, the first will be killed. Kill, or get killed yourself." Facing this choice, Vivi, the girl named Nami, trembled, and she turned to look at the straw hat boy in the cage. The other party has no grievances or enmity with himself, and it can be said that he has saved himself once. Although he said he was a pirate, but looking at that stupid. "Hey, you're scared." Luffy in the cage looked at the girl who controlled her life and death with a confident smile. "If you don't have enough determination and preparation, you can't deal with pirates rashly." What determination? The determination to kill at will. In the face of Nami's rhetorical question, Luffy is hearty issue. Wrong. It's the determination to take your life. On the edge of the pirate group, the corner of the mouth of the boy who was burying his head in eating, Vivi raised. "Hey, Nami." Behind him came the urging of Captain Clown Buggy, "Hurry up and don't spoil everyone's interest. Or say, do you want to die? To kill, or to be killed? Rookie, don't you even know how to light a fire?" A pirate who couldn't bear to watch directly grabbed the match in Nami's hand, and then moved to the lead with a skillful stroke. Just like that. Bang! A stick hit him on the head, knocking the pirate to the ground. "What are you doing? Nami, what do you mean? It's against you." "Oops, accidentally." "What are you doing? You really are my partner." "Shut up, idiot." With her back to the iron cage behind her, Nami, who was holding an iron rod, gritted her teeth and swore in resentment. "I don't want to become like these pirates who kill my most important people. Trampling on life. Oh, no wonder you hate pirates so much. No matter if you're reluctant to do it, or if you have other plans." The clown captain on the opposite side pointed. "Dare to fool me, Captain Buggy, I want you to know what cruelty is. Go." A group of pirates rushed over immediately. "Nami, I want you to be my partner." And the boy who was eating on the edge also stood up, took out a napkin from his palm and wiped the corner of his mouth. "It's over." In the face of the surging pirates, the orange-haired girl looked desperate. She is just a thief, facing a group of murderous demons. The only fate is. Bang! The figure flashed, and the pirates who rushed up all flew back. A figure stopped in front of Nami, along with his iconic mantra. "You were the first to do it. Just one click. Where is Holy Roman?" Luffy's happy voice in the cage behind him made the boy in front of Nami turn around, revealing a handsome face, and disgusting look. Yo, Luffy. I haven't seen you for a while, why did you pull it like this? Chapter 10 Taming Lion Defeat the Enemy with Bare Hands. Roman. Let me out now. Facing Luffy, who was screaming for help in the iron cage, Roman ignored him and looked to the side first. Short orange hair, perfect body shape, and a 3-section assembly stick in his hand. That's right, it's Nami, a genius-level navigator. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. It's great, finally being able to get rid of the boring routine. Very scary. However, in the face of Roman's looking eyes, Nami only felt a coldness all over her body, like a blade sticking to her skin. It's as if I'll be dead in the next second. Roman. She's Nami, our navigator. As Luffy's voice came, Roman reached out to the girl who was so frightened that she fell to the ground. Nami. Hello, I'm Roman. My idiot captain has caused you trouble, please bear with me in the future. Okay. Nami, who was picked up by Roman, blinked. In front of him was a handsome, sunny and polite boy. Why did she feel so terrible just now? Roman. Captain, shouldn't that guy be? On the other hand, everyone from the Buggy pirates looked at Roman, who was no one else, and hesitated to ask their captain. Shouldn't it be that Silver Light? You are the battle captain of the Silver Light pirates. Counterattack, Roman. Bold and grandiose, the clown Captain Buggy sitting on the throne put his face in one hand, pretending to be lofty. Is this woman also from your Silver Light pirates? Was she sent to be an undercover agent? What? Nami, who had just stood up, was startled and almost fell to the ground again. The Silver Light Pirates, a group of pirates who came to East Blue from North Blue. In just half a year, it has become famous in East Blue. Its captain has a reward of 30 million yuan, and his 10 million level battle captains, even ordinary pirates, are veterans who have been fighting for a long time. And their ship, Ride the Wind and Waves, is incredibly fast. He once had a conflict with the East Blue overlord, Admiral Krieg, but he relied on the ship to be fast and strong, and easily killed the opponent's 3 warships and then went away. It is definitely a ruthless character who can stop children from crying at night. Sorry, you got the wrong person. Roman denied it without hesitation, making Nami next to him relieved. It's just the same name. The Silver Light Pirates have already sunk their crew and ships to the bottom of the sea. Now I am Roman, a crew member of the Straw Hat Pirates. Roman turned to face the crowd of pirates and replied calmly, that's all. Wow, this is even scarier, okay. Poor Nami felt like she was about to fall to the ground again, her legs were as soft as noodles and slid down. Snapped. Are you all right? Facing Roman's inquiry, Nami, who was supported by the other's hand, picked up, squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. I am fine. Oh, so, the Silver Light Pirates no longer exist. The clown Buggy sneered and pointed at Luffy in the iron cage. But your vision is not very good, you actually take refuge in such an idiot. Then he pointed to the densely packed pirates around him. And what's even more ignorant is that you are still trying to fight against so many people in our Buggy pirates. Clang. Click. Slam, la. Sailor knives, flintlocks, chains, various weapons are in the hands of the Buggy pirates. After hearing that Roman was the only one left in the Silver Pirates, their guts immediately rose again. Or else. Sitting on the main seat, looking at the 3 people who fell into the surrounding Buggy, the clown touched his red nose. Roman, I'll give you a chance. It's up to you to shoot the cannonballs and swear allegiance to me with that straw hat idiot's head. In that case, you and Nami can be our partners. The grinning clown Buggy raised his chin. I can even make you my battle captain. How about it, right? I refuse. Roman interrupted without waiting for the other party to finish speaking. Facing the pirates surrounded by all directions, he strode forward with 2 empty hands. Want my allegiance? Sorry, obviously you don't have that level. Hey hey hey, Luffy. Nami, who retreated to the iron cage, looked at Roman who was alone, and looked anxiously at Luffy in the cage. He will die. So many people. No. Luffy of the cage is confident Isho. Roman is strong. The so-called Buggy pirates, that's all. In just a few minutes, there was a bruised pirate lying on the roof, and Roman shook his head with his bare hands. I think you should just go and do the circus honestly. At least you don't have to worry about when you will be hacked to death. In all fairness, although one or two of the members of the Buggy pirates are dressed very well, they cannot be said to be similar to the people in the circus, they can only be said to be exactly the same. But their agile movements and ruthless skills can't be faked. Not to mention ordinary people, at least they are experts who have passed the average level of pirates. However, don't say, fight, in front of Roman, he doesn't even have the ability to leave a scar on him. One punch, one kick. Hanging all the way. Captain, there's something wrong with this kid. Cabaji, chief of staff of the Buggy pirates, was riding a unicycle, with a sailor knife hanging from his waist, his hair covering his left eye, a scarf, and a cape, and said to his boss Vivi, tilting his head and whispering. I've seen the brother's weapons fall on him several times with no effect at all. Is there some defensive armor under that guy's clothes? Clown Buggy touched his chin and snapped his fingers. Moji, let's put on a beast show for everyone. Yes, Captain. A guy with a ragdoll hood and fur of the same color on his chest answered the call, and as he stood up, he immediately cast a shadow. Don't get me wrong, this guy is not a big guy, but under his crotch. A huge lion. Although it is said to be a lion, but this size it is not an exaggeration to say that it is an elephant. For animals, great size means great strength. Oh, the deputy captain is here. Come on, Vice Captain Moji. Kill him, Richie. The giant lion's name is Richie, and the guy sitting on it is Moji, the vice captain of the Buggy pirates. One person and one beast slowly approached Roman, and the house-like body cast a large shadow over Roman. Well, I should have given you a chance to surrender. The lion put Moji on his back and sneered, but I don't want another nasty guy to fight with me besides Cabaji, so. Roar. With a sound close at hand, the veritable lion's roar struck Roman with a stench of evil wind. Even Nami, who had retreated to the back, instinctively covered her ears. Richie, tear. Following the sudden lion's roar, there were two lion claws the size of a grinding disc, falling down on Roman's head with a mournful sound of breaking through the air. 8 sharp claws that popped out like daggers were about to disembowel him immediately. Clang. However, with a crisp crash, the giant lion's claws suddenly stopped. Being held by 2 palms abruptly, although Roman is not thin, but in front of this elephant-like giant lion, it looks as funny as a child wrestling with a giant man. What? However, what is even more funny is that the huge lion was suppressed by Roman reins a little bit and retreated. Richie, bite. As the trainer on his back ordered again, the huge lion bowed his head sharply and used its third weapon, sharp teeth. Biting at Roman fiercely, as if he would be killed in the next second. Humph. Falling backwards, Roman's back fell silently to the ground. The legs curled up, and the whole person was extremely compressed into a ball. Then, in the face of the bloody mouth that was thrown down, he suddenly stretched out. Inch by inch, as Roman stretched out his body, the joints of his vertebrae moved and nudged at the same time. Every inch of joint movement made Roman's body straighten little by little along with the vertebrae. At the same time, the movement of the vertebrae also drives the movement of the bones of the whole body and the expansion and contraction of the muscles. Just like a lever, the force is transferred bit by bit from the ground, arms, back to the chest, and then up the waist and abdomen all the way. Finally down to the legs. All strength gathered in one place. This power is vigorous, strong and powerful, just like a powder keg suddenly ignited. For a time, Roman is like a wise archer, his spine is like a bow, and his feet are like arrows. Hit out. Bang. With a loud bang, the huge lion flew high. Draw an arc back while others are stunned, and then fall heavily on the roof. The huge impact caused the roof to collapse under the heavy load, leaving only a huge void and snapped. A carp turned over and stood up, and Roman, who was still empty-handed, patted his pants. You wouldn't think that. He glanced at the stunned Buggy pirates on the opposite side. A mere 10 million bounty is worthy of being a member of the Straw Hat Pirates, right? Chapter 11 Juggler Retreat Temporarily. This. In one move, he killed the vice-captain of the opponent's animal trainer in seconds. While shocking most of the pirates, it also made their eyes fall on their boss involuntarily. See what I do? Although the clown Buggy still has an expressionless expression on his face, he has already retreated in his heart. At first glance, the other party is a master who is proficient in hand-to-hand combat. As long as he seizes the opportunity, he will be a punch. This kind of opponent is what he hates the most, whether it is hard power or fruit ability, he is all against this kind of HMPH, that piece of shit Moji. Cabaji, who was riding a unicycle, snorted coldly, took out the sailor knife from his waist, and stepped out slowly on the unicycle. I have seen through your tricks. Buggy sitting in the main seat was stunned, but although he didn't see anything, it didn't prevent him from maintaining his majesty. Hum, not bad, Cabaji. To see the details of the other party so quickly, only a little worse than me. Oh. Roman tilted his head and looked at the juggler, swordsman in front of him, standing loose and casual. Then what are you talking about? What are my details? And Cabaji, who was slowly approaching with a unicycle, raised his brows, and the unicycle, which was still slow, suddenly accelerated. The sailor knife in his hand slashed towards Roman with an afterimage. Of course it's. Dang! Roman blocked the opponent's sailor knife with one arm, but the opponent named Cabaji pulled away the scarf around his neck with the other hand, and threw his cheeks forward. Acrobatic fire breathing. A raging flame spewed out of his mouth. Although it looked terrifying, the flames produced by using alcohol were more frightened than the actual lethality for these little masters. But Roman, however, quickly retreated with a serious face, even more than the category of scared. Sure enough, my guess was right. While pulling out the sailor knife, the man named Cabaji pointed at the serious Roman. Your ability. Is it paper? Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. That's right, I'm the paper man who ate the paper fruit. Since it has been seen through, Roman has generously conceded. But I'm curious, how did you think of it? You know, so far, I haven't actively used the fruit ability. After so many years of pirates, Roman will no longer underestimate the heroes of the world. But it was seen through so quickly by the other party. I'm not just a swordsman. Cabaji, who was riding a unicycle, pointed to his eyes. At the same time, I also serve as a watchman. My eyesight is definitely the sharpest in the entire East Blue. Although your skin looks normal, in my eyes, it looks very false, with no pores and no lines. Even wrinkles and blood vessels are painted. Combined with your invulnerability, I would venture to guess that your body is covered with a layer of something. And the answer is paper. Wow. It's amazing, as expected of the Chief of Staff. Long live Lord Cabaji. Since it's paper, it must be very afraid of fire. No wonder. It turns out to be a devil fruit power user. From the new group. Yes, this is the first skill developed by Roman. It is also his resident ability. After all, as a celestial traveler in a peaceful era, Roman himself is actually very afraid of death. Paper dance, iron armor. With the truth revealed, even Nami, who was behind Roman, first came to a realization, and then looked desperate. It's over, it's over. 3-year-old children know what to be afraid of like paper. Sure enough, after the pirates on the opposite side learned about Roman's abilities, they immediately collected materials on the spot, and all kinds of Molotov cocktails and torches were lit one after another, causing a big smell of alcohol in the air. Since we know your weakness, then surrender obediently. In the face of the clamor of those little guys, the speechless Roman not only did not have a trace of nervousness, but even thought. Laugh. However, until then. Although you seem to have a point, Roman looked at Cabaji, the chief of staff of the Buggy pirates on a unicycle, but that doesn't make it a determinant for you to deduce that my ability is paper. It's also possible that the skin is covered with a layer of iron, glass, or wax, or something. Devil fruit. No wonder. To accurately know that Roman's fruit ability is paper, it is definitely not something that can be judged by the other party's few words. Facing Roman's question, Cabaji, who is still looking like Conan, just now, looked erratic and unconsciously looked at the ground next to him. So it is. Roman already knew the answer. It's the napkin I used to wipe my mouth with. You have already seen my ability to conjure paper out of thin air, so you are using answer to derive reason. Even so, if the captain of the other party is not a devil fruit person, it is estimated that this Cabaji will not think of the devil fruit at the first time, and then speculate the truth of Roman's ability. HMPH, with such an obvious weakness, as long as everyone swarms up. A pirate holding a torch fell to the ground with an before the pirate's mouth cannon was finished. Maybe the battle just now made you misunderstood. In the clattering sound, 2 pure white crossbows appeared in Roman's hands. Automatically load, generate arrows, and fire. PFF'd, puff. With a wave of his hand, a pirate immediately fell down. And this time, it's no longer easy to stand a little farther away. The other party has long range means, we can't get close at all. This ability is simply invincible. Roman's eyes swept away, wanting to see who was debuffing him. I don't know if the person who claims to be invincible has all stopped thinking. What are you panicking about? Attack that cage. The clown Buggy waved his hand, and he immediately saw Roman's weakness. And that woman named Nami, let's kill it together. Hey, why am I? Nami, who tried her best to eliminate the sense of existence, and pretended not to exist, was stunned. Roman, protect Nami. She's our navigator. Wait a minute, I didn't agree again. However, looking at the members of the Buggy pirates surrounded by swords and muskets in one hand and torches in the other, Nami could only admit with tears. Yes, I am the navigator of the Straw Hat Pirates. I'm sorry, Nojiko's sister. I'm sorry, Aunt Belmere. I didn't do it voluntarily, it was just forced by the situation. In other words, the Straw Hat Pirates wouldn't be just 3 people. Hey, don't take me as an omnipotent robot cat. In the face of the numerous pirates surrounding him again, and this time the target of the opponent's attack was not only himself, but also Luffy and Nami, who were burdens, and Roman couldn't help but complain. Well, I want to thank you. Facing the Buggy pirates with 1 weapon and 1 torch, the crossbow in Roman's hand disappeared with a clattering sound. With empty hands, palms facing opposite. Originally, if the amount of paper I made was too large, it would become ineffective. Could it be? The face of Cabaji, who was the first to react, changed greatly, and he flew back on his unicycle. Paper dance, sea of fire. Clap la la la. Dense sheets of paper spewed out from Roman's hands. Like a sea wave that submerges the entire rooftop, soft paper certainly has no lethal power, but if the opponent has a torch in his hand. Help! It's on fire, it's on fire. Water. In an instant, the entire roof turned into a sea of flames. Everyone in the Buggy pirates still dances in the flames. The funny and terrifying picture made the girl named Nami stunned in place until. Why are you in a daze? Why don't you run? Carrying the iron cage, holding Luffy in one hand, and pulling up the dull orange-haired girl in the other, Roman used you fuel the road. Get out of this arson zone quickly. As the so-called, the roof is on fire, the director falls in love with me. After all, in the end, his paper fruit was really defeated by the flames. If the other party comes and throws a lifeless pounce on him. Hey, fire and water or ruthless. Before getting that thing, this obvious flaw seems to be irreversible for a while. Right. Roman turned his head to look at Nami, who was being pulled by himself and looked lost, and thought to himself. No, I remember when I watched the show in my previous life, wasn't Nami witty and unparalleled in violence? Why is it like this now? I'm afraid it's not fake, right? Roman subconsciously didn't think about it. It was the first time that he was able to talk and laugh in the face of a decisive, true pirate, only Luffy Zoro. Chapter 12 Dog and Old Man Captain Duel. Hoo. After the hurricane all the way, the three stopped on the street of the town. Escape. Facing the panting Nami, Roman spoke calmly as he began to seriously prepare a fitness plan for the other party. Even as a navigator of our pirate group, you don't need to fight, but your physical strength is too poor. Who is your navigator? Facing Roman's suddenly cold eyes, Nami, who was crying in her heart, had to close her eyes and nod. Yes, it's all my fault for dragging you down. But this guy named Roman is so strong. In the face of the notorious Buggy pirates not only come and go, but also invincible. And holding himself with one hand, and the other hand carrying the big iron cage and the idiot, Captain, inside, he ran all the way, his face was not blushing and he was not breathing. Maybe, trick this guy to deal with. Wow, you see this dog doesn't move. As soon as Luffy escaped from the rope, he started playing tricks every day. This time, the object of his molesting was a dog on the side of the road. It was just an ordinary pastoral dog, squatting motionless in front of a small shop. Is this dog dead? Isn't it a statue? Rubber two fingers Zen. Extending his arm from the cage, put his index and ring fingers in the dog's eyeballs. Then, click. Ah, it hurts. Ah, this. Looking at the one person and one dog fighting hotly across the cage, Roman once again began to reflect on whether he had made Luffy too full. What an idiot. Nami next to her was speechless about the human-dog war that was being staged. However, the more I think about it, the more I think I'm just an idiot. Saying that, she patted her clothes, took out a key, and threw it beside the cage. I stole the key while you were fighting. The orange-haired girl curled her lips in annoyance. Really, I didn't steal any treasures or nautical charts. Haha, that's great. Luffy, who had been hanging up in the cage, was elated. This cage has made me miserable. Well, it's not your own stupidity. Roman snorted speechlessly, but for the sake of the other party's recruitment as a navigator. Pick up. Gollum. Ah, dead dog, spit out the key to me. Luffy, tell me honestly, are you sure you're eating a rubber fruit, not a kai fruit? Not only lowers your own IQ, but also lowers the IQ of surrounding creatures. Roman, who rubbed his temples, sighed. Very well, let's eat dog meat fire. Hello. You guys, don't bully Shusho. An old man wearing leather armor, protective gear, a long spear on his back, and glasses ran angrily. So you are the mayor of this town. This dog's name is Shusho. Then why is it squatting here? Facing the questions of the three Romans, the old man sighed. This store, the old town mayor pointed to the small store behind him, was opened by an old friend of mine and Shusho. For them, this store is their most precious memory. But, the pirates are here. Nami chased after him suspiciously. Everyone in the town ran out to take refuge, right? Why let this dog watch the house here? Your friend is not afraid that it will be killed by the pirates. He's dead. The old mayor sighed again. A few months ago, that old friend of mine got sick and went to the hospital, and then. So this dog is here alone, waiting for his master to come back. Facing Nami's emotion, The old town mayor smiled. No, Shusho is a smart dog, he must know that his owner is not coming back. It's just that this store is its most precious memory, so it will always be here. As he spoke, the mayor covered his forehead, his voice trembling. What a stupid dog. Oh, uncle, are you almost there? Leaning on the door of the small shop, Roman raised his eyelids with his arms in his arms. You came to check at this time, can't you let go of this town? After all, you're not smarter than this dog. Hee hee. Facing Roman's sarcasm, the old town mayor smiled and shook his head. That's right, this town was built by us, a group of refugees whose homes were destroyed by pirates. Little by little, we built this town from the desolation. This place carries our hard work, sweat, joys and sorrows. So. As he said that, when he took off his glasses and put them back on, there was only determination left in his eyes. So, I'm getting old. I can't run. If I have to die, I also want to die in my own home. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Roman. Luffy in the cage pressed his straw hat, instead of his usual giggling. Let's go back. He raised his head, only seriousness in his eyes. It's like changing someone. I'm going to beat that red nose away. What a wayward guy. As you wish. Roman stood up and moved his muscles. Captain. Hey, you three young people should hurry and seek refuge. Looking at the three who were about to find someone to open the film. No, the two of you, the old town mayor hurriedly advised. And one of you is in a cage. Snapped. Roman, who was half squatting, held the cage iron pillars thick with thumbs in both hands, and then puff. In an instant, the blue veins of Roman's arms were knotted, and the muscles were bumpy, and the loose sleeves were unexpectedly burst open. The two arm muscles full of muscular beauty rolled, and suddenly broke to the sides. Ka ka ka. In the harsh metal sound, the sturdy steel cage was bent and deformed to both sides in Roman's hands. Eventually a hole large enough for a man to drill was revealed. Get it done. Thanks, Roman. Luffy, who got out of trouble, moved his shoulders with excitement. Let's go beat that red nose and his minions away. Yes. Bang. And the old town mayor in leather armor was so frightened that he sat on the ground. He is obviously just a handsome and sunny boy, but he has the inhuman power to bend steel. Impressive. On the other side, Nami once again had a deeper understanding of the boy named Roman. Such power is no longer inferior to those guys, right? If this straw hat has such power, deceive them to their hometown, maybe they can. However, looking at the two pirates, who were going to go back to the Buggy pirates, Nami's eyes flashed. Two pirates who are ready to righteousness is really stupid. Can't stand it. Good. The old mayor next to him also felt his long-lost blood boil, as the mayor, who will protect the town if I don't protect it. I'll go too. Bang. It's a pity that Luffy pressed the back of his head and slammed into the door of the small shop next to him before he could say anything. His eyes rolled, and he fainted on the spot. Luffy, what are you doing? Before starting the fight, the teammates sacrificed to the sky first, and the girl named Nami was instantly furious. If it weren't for Roman by her side, she would have asked this idiot with a straw hat to have a good taste of her disposable cup-sized fist. Haha, this is a battle between us pirates. Saying that, Luffy turned to look at the dog at the door of the store next to him. Shusho, protect your master's friend. Let's go do something serious. Wong wong wong. Do you think the dog can understand what you say? Haha, didn't the old man say it? Shusho is very smart. There was the sound of Luffy and Nami arguing next to each other, and there was no pause all the way, which made Roman shook his head amusingly. This strange atmosphere is compared with the murderous aura and greed that pervaded before the battle. Not bad. Hee, I thought you guys had already run away. In front of the wreckage of the house in the center of the town, a group of dark pirates faced the trio who had returned here again, and their eyes were about to burst into flames. Red nose. Luffy stepped forward, rubbing his fists with interest. I've decided, I'm going to beat you up. Silence. Then. Ah, what did you say, Straw Hat Boy? Don't you know that Captain Buggy hates people talking about his red nose the most? Yeah, the red nose is the captain's taboo, and when he hears the word, he will explode. And what's with the red nose? Isn't that the nose? You're looking at discrimination. Red nose, red nose, red nose. The clown-like Captain Buggy, who was already angry and bursting with blue veins on his forehead, waved his hands. In the sound of puff-puff, the few pirates who were jumping up and down and screaming immediately, through the street, on the spot. If you want to provoke me, your goal is achieved. A burst of flame-like momentum swept across the battlefield, and the boy named Luffy looked at several pirates on the ground with knives stuck in their backs. Anger all over his face. Hurt your partner at will, someone like you. Huh. The figure flashed, and he suddenly rushed in front of the clown Buggy. His clenched fists launched the attack first. Not fit to be a captain. Chapter 13 Torn Apart Tough Rubber. Rubber. Shish. Gun bashing. Swinging at high speed, the fist wave that leaves dense afterimages in the air generally rushes towards Buggy, forcing the opponent to use dodge stunts. Fractured. Emergency escape. Brush, brush, brush. The clown-like Captain Buggy was literally torn apart, and his body turned into pieces of parts that quickly spread out in all directions, dodging a wave of Luffy's fists, and circled like a swallow in a forest. Generally, it is reassembled into a human form next to it. Damn, why are you so familiar with my abilities? HMPH, I won't tell you. After a few waves of tentative battles between the two captains, they both felt troubled. Luffy is fast, with thick skin and thick blood. Buggy can break apart and dodge extremely high. The two fell into a stalemate on the spot. Help the captain. Buggy pirates, Moji, who lost his mount of lion, waved his whip, and Cabaji, who was riding a unicycle, also held a sailor knife to prepare for a righteous 3-on-1. But. Brush. A figure stood in front of them. You two, don't be so confused. The Roman evil Isho with one shield and one sailor knife. Let the two captains communicate alone. As for you. Huh. With a tilt of his head, he passed the whip of the animal trainer Moji, who was wearing an animal hood, and the shield in his hand blocked the sailor knife of Cabaji, who was riding a unicycle. Roman and the vice captain and chief of staff of the Buggy pirates fought together. Stay with me. Hey, what the hell are you? Captain Buggy, dressed as a clown, looked at Luffy, who was wearing a straw hat and exuding a poor and sour breath all over him. My name is Luffy. The man who wants to be the One Piece King of Pirates. Ha. En airy summation, su degree d degree, su. Laughing to death. If you can be One Piece King of Pirates, wouldn't I be a god? Stop talking nonsense and keep fighting. After introducing himself, Luffy turned his arms. He said that if he wants to beat the opponent, he must beat him. Hey, don't be so arrogant, rubber boy. A short knife was caught between Buggy's 5 fingers, his face collapsed, and he was so embarrassed by a little-known boy. Even Buggy, who wasn't competitive, was furious. Boy, rubber can't stop a sharp blade, right? As he spoke, sharp blades popped out of the clown boots under Buggy's feet. I can't stop. Fractured. Buggy, who made a throwing action, slammed forward and through the lower body. Pancakes. The two rapidly rotating thighs whizzed out with sharp blades on the toes, like a high-speed cutting flywheel. Although it looks funny, the power is not funny at all. Along the way, flying sand and rocks forcibly cut a long crack in the ground. Brush. Jumping in place, Luffy chose to dodge the opponent's lower body attack from above. But I knew you'd jump up. Brush, 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 brush. The short knife in his hand shot out at a high speed, instantly blocking Luffy up, down, left and right. And in the air there is nowhere to borrow. Hee hee. In the face of the flying knives surrounded on all sides, Luffy was just confident-isho. The arm suddenly stretched and grabbed the house next to it, and when retracting, he immediately pulled himself aside to avoid this wave of flying knife attacks. I attack, rubber. Gun. An unremarkable positive punch was thrown, the fist spanned a distance of more than 10 meters in 0.1 seconds, and completed a rotation at the same time. Under the high-speed assault, the force that swept away from the arm actually blew a gust of wind, like a wild python tumbling. Brush. However, the clown-like Buggy had already evaded the trajectory of Luffy's fist at the moment of punching, although the placket and hat were blown violently by the strong wind. But. Nice attack, but the outstretched arm is the opening. The short knife in his hand slashed towards Luffy's outstretched arm. Look at me chop. At this moment, Buggy's out-of-the-way light swept behind him, and the fist that failed had turned into a palm, grabbing onto the building behind him. As soon as his pupils turned, he saw Luffy in front of him kicking his feet. Rubber. The forward force under his feet, plus the kinetic energy of one arm's retraction, combined together, Luffy's entire body had turned into an afterimage and charged towards Buggy. The other arm, hook, fiercely towards the opponent's neck. Scythe. Well, this action is next door to Hokage, and there is a famous name, Thunderplow Hot Knife. Empty. This trick is very powerful. Even one move made Buggy's head fly. And Luffy fell into the building behind under the powerful kinetic energy, and the House of Vice Admiral was smashed into ruins with a bang. Torn apart, broken head. Ha 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 muda. This kind of childish attack can't hurt me. The head fell, and the clown captain named Buggy turned around. His splintered fruit can split anywhere on his body and at any moment, a straight attack that simply cannot defeat him. Bang. Standing up from the ruins, Luffy pressed the straw hat on top of his head and looked at Captain Buggy opposite. It's a headache, you're good at hiding. Each other, straw hat. What a terrible fight. Whether it's dealing with Roman Reigns of the two bosses, or the captains of both sides. Especially that straw hat Luffy, I didn't expect that he is actually a master. Although for the two fighting, it was just a warm-up, and a trial, but for Nami, who was hiding, it was a battle between two non-human beings. There is a powerful force between every move, every punch and every kick is a deadly killer move. The surrounding buildings and streets in front of them were as fragile as building blocks. Simply not human. Looks like Luffy still has to fight. With one enemy and two, Roman still has time to distract himself from the battle on the other side. In fact, with his strength, it is not difficult to take down these two opponents. After all, according to Marine's bounty, Roman, who was able to defeat Captain Silverlight one-on-one, had his own strength of around 25 million Baileys. In addition, after eating the paper devil fruit later, the strength can be said to have stabilized at the level of 30 million. Even now, because the fruit ability is exposed, the opponent has prepared restrained burning items. But even if Roman cancels the paper dance, iron armor, on his body, it can still be said that he will be able to deal with the Buggy pirates who don't even have a reward of tens of millions of animal trainers and jugglers. But Buggy. Leave it to Luffy to deal with it. No matter if the opponent really has conqueror luck, or if he takes off his gloves to perform molecule collapse, or if he suddenly makes a move, the world is torn apart. In short, Roman doesn't want to face each other. This kind of guy with unknown strength, let Luffy deal with it. After all, who made him the captain? No wonder I always thought this straw hat looked familiar. On the other hand, the clown Buggy successfully found Luffy's weakness, which is the straw hat on his head. From the new group. So, by attacking the weak point, he easily hurts Luffy. Now, Buggy the clown, who thought winner was in his hands, said angrily while throwing the straw hat pierced by the dagger on the ground. That guy Shanks was a trainee sailor on the ship with me back then. It's him who made this uncle come to this point. After he finished speaking, he spit a puddle of saliva on the straw hat beside his feet. Ha ha ha, this kind of ragged hat, you actually treat it as a treasure. You. Circles of scorching anger swept across the battlefield, interrupting Buggy's death-defying move. Luffy is furious. A man like Shanks, you actually said that you were brothers with him. Meow. Luffy, who pulled out an afterimage, pounced on Buggy who was complacent on the opposite side, and posed a lightning plow-hot knife on his wrist. No, it was a rubber sickle attack method. Fractured. Bang. However, the attack on the hand is just a fake action to attract attention. Luffy's real killer move is the hidden kick. He suddenly kicked Buggy's lower body, suspending the whole person he kicked directly, almost letting his good brother play on the spot. You don't deserve it. Chapter 14 Funny Fight Beat Buggy. This. Taking time to glance at the battle situation on the other side, Roman's thousands of words were turned into 2 words. What the hell? Just now, they played well. Seeing Luffy and Buggy who are playing tricks, the current battle mode is. How dare you spoil my straw hat and spit? Don't rub it on me. Shut up, this is your own saliva. Buggy, who fell to the ground, was riding under Luffy and wiped him with his beloved straw hat. The two instantly changed from a master duel to a gangster fight. Let Roman's brows jump. Please, do you two captains dare to be serious? It's a life and death fight. You can't beat people like this. You have to fight in the dance studio. Tear face, stare, spit. Instantly in the B-frame scuffled together and fired their mouths. You're not allowed to say it's Shanks' brother. I don't care what your relationship with Shanks is. I like to say it is my freedom. Don't say. I don't. Rubber, nose picking. Torn apart, tickle. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. 2 sticks. When Roman stopped in his footsteps, he almost couldn't help turning his head and punching these 2 guys first. With their existence, it simply lowered the lower limit of Pirate's IQ. But his performance fell into the eyes of breathless Moji and Cabaji, that is. Hold on, he's dead. Roman sneered. Since he knew that he had traveled to the world of One Piece, King of Pirates, he had never slacked off a day. When others drink and revel, he exercises. When others sleep, he exercises. When others play leisurely, he exercises. In addition, the physical quality of this body is very good, as if there is no bottleneck. So even without the guidance of a famous teacher, Roman's strength should not be underestimated. This kind of intense battle, it doesn't matter if he fights all day and night. But Roman still maintained an unhurried attack frequency with a fair and bright paddling, and was not in a hurry to decide the winner. Anyway, he never wanted to intervene in the battle between those 2 idiots, lest he would also become foolish due to the aura of wisdom reduction. I was fascinated by accident. On the other hand, Nami, who was hiding behind the building, was also awakened by the scoundrel battle between the 2 captains, and only then did she realize what she should do. Although the house was burnt down, the treasure of the Buggy pirates will definitely be rescued first. So, who? After finally getting rid of Luffy's entangled Buggy, he got up from the ground and looked at the straw hat on Luffy's head opposite. I tell you, what I hate the most is that guy Shanks. Because he destroyed my dreams. As soon as the word dream came out, the opposite Luffy also stopped attacking and listened carefully to Buggy's old past. At that time, Shanks and I were still apprentice sailors. But I'm not like Shanks and the rest of the boat. They don't care about treasure at all, they only have illusory dreams. Well, a real pirate mixed in with a group of dreamers feels as abrupt as a psychopath mixed in with ordinary people. The purpose of sailing is treasures, and capturing treasures is the greatest joy of pirates. This is the true meaning of pirates. Shanks doesn't understand pirates at all. Shanks far away in the new world. Yes, I am a pirate who knows the fart. So after I got a treasure map on the bottom of the sea, I was going to go out and do it myself. But at that time I didn't have my own boat, no sailors, so, when our boat grabbed a devil fruit, but no one wanted to eat it, I stood up. You ate that devil fruit? Faced with Luffy's question, Captain Buggy proudly issued. How is that possible? I just performed an acrobatic trick, in front of everyone, hid the real fruit, ate a fake fruit, and said it was just an ordinary fruit. I have everything planned. When I sell the devil fruit, I will have the money to build my own ship. Then recruit sailors to find that great treasure at the bottom of the sea. But, goddamn Shanks, I suddenly startled from behind, so I accidentally swallowed the devil fruit and fell into the sea. Although that guy fished me up, he also turned me into a landlubber who couldn't touch the water. I'll never be able to find that underwater treasure again. What, so Shanks saved your life? After listening to the grudge between the other party and his savior, Luffy nodded suddenly. It turns out that the other party is the same as himself. Are you focusing on the wrong point? It's not that that bastard ruined my dreams. Hello. Forget it. After saying a lot, Buggy's body, who gradually calmed down, split apart, and the upper body floated in the sky. Since I can't get the treasure at the bottom of the sea, then I will get all the treasure at the sea. He turned his head and looked at the direction of the burned ruins. Dare to touch my treasure? Call out. He turned his upper body and flew over there at a high speed. On the periphery of the ruins, a girl named Nami was quietly carrying a bag of gold and silver jewelry and coins, and was quietly preparing to slip away. Even if it's a woman, I'll never let it go. The sharp knife in his hand pointed at the girl holding the treasure, and Buggy's clamor came at the same time as his killing intent. Nami, drop my treasure. Just as Roman, who was paddling, was about to shoot, Luffy had already taken the lead. Bang! Oh! The upper body of Buggy, who was killing Nami at a high speed, suddenly fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Like a real mask of pain, because... Damn rubber, you actually attacked me. That's right, Luffy kicked Buggy between his legs before he left his lower body in place. The severe pain passed over, instantly causing Buggy's upper body to fall to the ground, trembling all over. Hey, our fight isn't over yet. Luffy put his hands on his hips and looked righteous with a solemn expression on his face. At the same time, he turned to look at the orange short-haired girl. Nami, let go of the treasure. Otherwise he won't let you go. I don't want it. However, the orange-haired girl made full use of the attribute of needing money or not dying, holding the treasure in her hands tightly. What I stole is mine. I won't let go. Hello. The upper body of Buggy, who was lying on the ground, took a breath and slowly floated up from the ground. How dare a thief be so righteous? Even if you steal it, is it yours? Is there still a law of heaven, and is there a law of the king? HMPH, do you need to teach me a lesson? The girl named Nami sneered. These treasures are just what you stole from others. If I can steal them, they are naturally mine. That makes sense. Luffy, who was beside him, suddenly realized, leaving Buggy speechless. But... okay, kill you, take it back, the treasure is mine. Fractured. His upper body on Nami's side and his lower body on Luffy's side, split, instantly at the same time. Turned into a whole bunch of small pieces. Big platter. Slam, la. Buggy's entire body turned into small pieces flying in the sky, swiftly dodging Luffy's follow-up attacks, and then... so scattered, how else can you hit me? Then... Buggy's head and the hands holding the daggers flew towards Nami, who continued to sneak away, shouting. Put my treasure down. Never. HMPH, it seems that I still need to save the field. Roman, who was always watching the battle situation on the other side, flipped his hand, and a paper flying knife fell into his hand, ready to throw it. But... ahahaha. The head of Buggy in flight suddenly burst into laughter. Confused by others, Roman turned his head to look, his face darkened. It turned out that in Buggy's torn body, one foot was being held by Luffy and scratching the sole of his foot. I endure. However, the next second, holding back a smile, Buggy's eyes bulged. Oh. It was the sole of the foot in Luffy's hand, and he was holding a piece of flesh and turning it 360 degrees. Don't go too far, rubber boy. Call. Once again, he took a deep breath of cold air. Roman felt that if he continued like this, the weather in the pirate world would get warmer. The world is so beautiful, and I am so irritable. Bad. Damn it. Are you here for a fight or for a comedy show? Dare to be more serious, are you worthy of the title of pirates? Opportunity. No matter whether the scene is funny or not, it is a good time to turn defeat into victory for Nami, who is being hunted down. She immediately smashed the huge package in her hand at Buggy's head, flying in the air. But snapped. The strength is too disparate, the so-called counterattack is just throw yourself into the net. Buggy, who was flying in the air, caught Nami's package firmly with one palm. No matter how funny or nonsense, the pirate captain named Buggy is a strong man, with a bounty of tens of millions. On the other side, Luffy's eyes became solemn, and he immediately put down the play and ran. Go to hell. As the head flying in the air spit out cold words, one hand grabbed the package, and the short knife in the other hand ruthlessly fell from the sky. The one who stabbed Nami. Bang. However, just when Buggy and Nami were both focused on the treasure, Luffy, who came at high speed, had already kicked Buggy's entire head into the pocket containing the treasure, letting the head and the pocket fly together to the side, but also saved Nami. As I said, our fight isn't over yet. When the dazed Buggy climbed up, it was Luffy holding his fist in sight. HMPH, don't be complacent. Torn apart. Buggy's head screamed. Fit. Brush. The hands and feet flew over instantly and merged with the head. Apart from. Where's my body? Did you mean this? On the other side, Nami tied a bunch of wriggling, neat pieces, with ropes, with thighs, torso, arms, all of which belonged to Buggy's body. When he just got a kick on his head and fell into a daze, these parts were packed and bundled by Nami, who was quick-witted. Ha, as expected of Nami. Then, rubber. Facing the pocket, Buggy with only his head and two palms and soles left, Luffy quickly stretched his arms backwards in a ha laugh. After reaching the limit, it bounced back suddenly. Bridge bean sack. Bazooka. Bang. I'll be back. Buggy, who was kicked away by Luffy's rubber rocket, disappeared into the sky, and a long series of screaming screams made Roman begin to doubt his life. Why, obviously before the painting style is still very normal to say. Chapter 15 Nami joins Grim Future. Let's go. After Luffy's fight was over, Roman Reigns immediately dealt with his opponent with 3 punches and 2 kicks. Then he greeted Nami and was about to leave. He also helped the gentleman to pick up the pocket containing the treasure of the Buggy pirates, making the orange-haired girl smile on the surface, and on the inside. For the sake of money, it seems that I have to continue with the other party, virtual and arrogant. Soon, the 3 came to the town pier. In addition to the ships belonging to the Buggy pirates, there is also a merchant ship that is slowly approaching. Huh. Zoro, you are actually able to drive the boat here. Roman looked at the green-haired 3 swordsmen standing on the bow and touched his chin. It seems that I misunderstood you, your sailing skills. No. The opposite. Zoro pointed his thumb back. It wasn't me who drove the boat, it was these 3 guys. Master Zoro. Look, the port has arrived. Can you let me go? The 3 blue-nosed pirates nodded and bowed to Zoro, who was standing on the bow. Isn't he this the 3 unlucky bastards who passed by when they came? Forget it, it's safe to meet anyway. So, without waiting for the merchant ship to dock, Roman directly carried the treasure pocket in one hand and Nami in the other. In the voice of the girl, hey hey, he first made a squatting and jumping action. Then, bang! Immediately afterwards, a ring-shaped ripple exploded on the ground, the masonry burst and the earthquake fainted. On the pier where he stood there were only 2 footprints, with cracks spreading in all directions. The figures of Roman and Nami had long since disappeared. Like boulders thrown by a trebuchet, they crossed a long arc and flew towards the merchant ship. It landed on the deck with a bang, causing the entire merchant ship to tremble suddenly. Hey, hey, hey. After landing, the girl named Nami has not recovered from this quick way of moving, and a pair of long palms have already caught on the side of the boat. Then the next second. Rubber. Brush. Rocket. A figure with a straw hat flew over the merchant ship with a bang, and after a few flips, it also landed on the deck. Ha 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 ha, Zoro, you're too slow. We not only found the navigator, but also beat up a guy named Buggy and his pirate group by the way. Oh, is it? However, Zoro, who had 3 knives hanging from his waist, was concerned about another problem. Is the enemy strong? Are there any swordsmen? Isn't that strong? Luffy thought about it again. I didn't see the swordsman, but there is an acrobat. That's fine. The man named Zoro immediately lost interest, leaning on the side of the boat and closing his eyes. Come on, Nami. Roman patted the orange-haired girl kindly on the shoulder, almost making Nami, who had just experienced a air flight, soft to the deck. The boat will be handed over to you later. Finally, I can free up my hands to continue to develop the fruit ability. Instead of sailing a day to do it. Roman, I'm hungry. Didn't you eat at the Buggy Pirates just now? Don't think I didn't see it. Nami clearly fed you. I just had a fight, and my stomach is already empty. Facing Luffy who was paralyzed on the ground, he looked at Nami who was consciously driving the boat, and... Want me to cook? No. Zoro's cooking skills, that is, the level of eating undead. Roman felt that for the sake of his own stomach, it was better to do it himself. Merchant ship restaurant. Chew. So, we have to recruit a chef right away. Hey, Roman, are you not cooking yet? The frightened Luffy was so frightened that all the pieces of meat in his hands fell on the plate, and the whole person threw himself on Roman and cried. No, Roman, you cook so deliciously, I've never eaten something so delicious. Don't wipe your tears and snot all over me. While pushing away Luffy who was playing tricks in disgust, Roman rubbed his temples. I'm curious about what you've eaten before, is it rubbish? My cooking skills are mediocre at best, and I have to make time to exercise and develop fruiting abilities. By the way, I want to ask you a question. Facing the serious-faced Roman, Luffy could only sit back and nibble on the meat, even Zoro and Nami were sitting upright. You guys, do you really want to go to the Great Route? For a moment, the 3 people present all looked serious, and then... I heard that there are many master swordsmen on the Great Route. This is Zoro with a look of war, if you want to become the world's #1 from the new group. A swordsman, then there is one person I must defeat. There are so many pirates on the Great Route, as long as we steal their treasure. This is Nami, who looks like a fortune fan, then I will soon be able to collect 100 million Bailey. Roman, what are you talking about? And Luffy pressed the straw hat, and it was rare that he didn't play tricks. I'm going to be the One Piece King of Pirates man. How can I be a One Piece King of Pirates if I don't enter the Great Line and find the One Piece? Really? Roman nodded and suddenly asked a question. You guys, do you think I'm strong? This. Very strong. Zoro was the first to nod, and his face was full of fighting intent. It's a pity that you don't need a sword, otherwise I really want to have a test with you. Of course you are strong, Roman, we all know that. You are wrong, Luffy. Roman interrupted Luffy's words with a wave of his hand, and looked around seriously for a week. I'm weak, very weak. What? Strength and weakness have always been a concept only by comparison. Like a frog in a well, it's strong to small fish and shrimp. But to the world outside the well, how strong can a frog be? Just weak. You mean? Zoro with short green hair cracked the corners of his mouth, revealing his white teeth. His eyes glowed like a knife, and he looked like a beast. We are all weak. Yes. Roman nodded without hesitation, and continued. As we all know, the danger of pirates can be seen from the bounty. Although the bounty is not exactly equal to strength, the pirates with higher bounty are generally stronger in strength. Roman looked around for a week. I said so, do you have any opinion? Nod X3. After all, the three present are all characters who deal with pirates, and they have a very clear view of the relationship between bounty and strength. Although there are some fluctuations, a pirate with a bounty of 10 million will never be an opponent of 20 million. According to my estimation, the bounty should be at the level of 20 to 30 million except for the few of us here Nami. Amid Nami's, why me except, muttering, Roman threw a bombshell. And on the Great Route, there are many pirates with a bounty of over 100 million. Quiet. That way you may not have a clear understanding. Zoro. Roman first looked at the three swordsmen with short green hair. Can you cut through steel with a sword? Facing Zoro who shook his head, Roman tapped the table with his fingers. On the Great Route, a swordsman who can cut through steel is like a crucian carp crossing a river. And even if it can cut through steel, it's only at the level of 50 million bounties. Strength. Nami, for the wealth of the pirates on the Great Route to put it simply, I know that several pirates have their own country. The implication is that the girl's so-called 100 million feet target, in front of those pirates whose wealth is calculated by country, is as ridiculous as the peasants imagine the emperor to eat 2 steamed buns at a meal. Fortune. Finally, Luffy. Roman ignored the other two, who had been shocked and motionless, and looked at the boy in the straw hat. If you target One Piece, King of Pirates, your opponent is a big pirate with a bounty of hundreds of millions, billions, or even billions. Each of them is a strong man with thousands of men and horses under his command, and the strength is able to split mountains and seas, and destroy a country alone. With our strength of 30 million, it is not uncommon to be instantly killed by others with one look. Absolute disparity. Dead. After half a sound. I want to get off the boat. Nami, who was about to cry, went limp, feeling that she needed to crawl to move. Ha ha ha, it's too late. Nami, just be our navigator honestly. Facing Roman who was laughing, Nami, whose soul was split open by the horror described by the other party, lay on the table crying and mourning. You can still laugh. According to what you said, don't we die when we go to the Great Route? Yeah, in theory. Facing Nami's questioning, Roman spread his hands and pointed to the side. But do you see how they're ready to back down? He, Roman. Zoro, whose eyes were full of fighting spirit, subconsciously caressed the hilt of the sword at his waist. You mean we're all frogs in the well? However, when I think that there are so many powerful swordsmen in the world, I tremble with excitement. As long as I can defeat them, isn't I one step closer to the throne of the world's #1 swordsman? That's right. Luffy on the other side also showed Isho's teeth, but there was no fear on his face, and he still had his signature hearty smile. It's because there are so many powerful rivals that it is meaningful to find One Piece. The title of One Piece, King of Pirates, Luffy, have decided. Sure enough, even if you knew the difficulty of the Great Route in advance, you would never back down. Then, let me explain to you the powerful enemies that you may encounter in the future. Lest you die in confusion that day. Although the words are not forgiving, the smile on Roman's face is obvious. Enjoying the moment. Chapter 16 The Four Emperors Marine descended to Wuhai. East Blue. On the deck of an unnamed merchant ship. A white round table was placed on the deck, and on 4 white chairs sat Roman, Luffy, Zoro and Nami. The other three were listening attentively to Roman's description of the strong men in this world. This world has 4 sea areas, which are divided into 4 seas of east, west, south and north by the Laterite continent and the great shipping route. East Blue, where we are, is known as the weakest sea. Speaking of which, Roman glanced at Luffy. The reason for this title is mostly because of this guy Luffy. His grandfather Garp Vice Admiral came to East Blue to see his grandson once, and he would definitely clean up a wave of pirates. If things go on like this, how can East Blue not be weak? The sea area in the first half of the Great Route is called Paradise, where newcomers have a fierce confrontation, where the weak are the strong. Called the strongest sea in the world. Quote. And the 3 major forces of the so-called Great Route refer to Marine, 4 Emperors, and Shichibukai. This, 4 Emperors. Roman glanced at Luffy again, and if he said Shanks was the 4 Emperors with a reward of billions. The Bandit King, Rixiong and the Lord of the Offshore Sea, would definitely stand up and protest. Maybe in Luffy's mind it became, the 4 Emperors, can Shanks be that strong? Then am I already at the Super Emperor level? Forget it, just skip it. Who makes the big guys in this world like to pretend to be weak? For example, an old man who was cut down by the Axe King. Some blind man thrown out of a casino. Let's get down to business. The 4 Emperors are top pirates with billions of bounties. They're too far away from us to mention them. Luffy, Zoro, and Nami, who listened carefully, had no objection. After all, the gap between these multi-billion bounty pirates and them is indeed too terrifying, and it is completely unimaginable. It's Marine and Shichibukai who need the most attention if we're going into the Great Route. Don't forget, we have a captain who wants to be the One Piece King of Pirates. Roman glanced at the 3 of them and explained cautiously. So, in general, Marine is our worst enemy. Don't care if the Straw Hat Pirates has ever done anything that pirates should do, as long as the flag is hung up, it is Marine's mortal enemy. Marine is subordinate to the world government, and in the name of absolute justice, it performs security work in all the oceans of the world. It is the world's largest military organization. Among them, the Marine headquarters, Enies Lobby, and Impel Down together constitute the world's 3 major fortresses. The current marshal is Sengoku the Buddha, then the 3 admiral with the highest combat power, followed by the vice admiral with the advanced combat power, rear admiral, commodore all the way down, and finally the colonel and lieutenant colonel. Although it also depends on the assholes in the upper ranks, the strength of most Marine generals is still linked to their rank. Looking at the disapproving trio, Roman had to explain patiently again. Don't take the Marine rank strength here in East Blue as a reference. Let me put it this way. East Blue's colonel went to a Great Route. It would be good to be a lieutenant, and there is a high probability that it will be rebuilt from seaman recruit. Even if it's just a few of us, going to Marine with our current strength, we'll be at the level of a major. And there are hundreds of people with such strength, not to mention thousands, but hundreds. Hundreds of Luffys. Nami just wanted to sigh with emotion, but what came to mind was the scene of hundreds of monkeys with straw hats chatting and playing tricks. No, the picture is too beautiful to look at. Next is Shichibukai. The full name is King Shichibukai, and they are the 7 great pirates recognized by the world government, possessing catastrophic destructive power and enormous combat power that rivals the country. I can tell you very clearly, Roman Reigns solemnly stated again, their strength is not exaggerated, it is a one-man enemy country in the actual sense. No, it can even be said if it is just an army of ordinary people. Faced with them, they will die as much as they come. Don't think about consuming each other, those monsters are all guys who can fight for days and nights without breathing. This. 3 faces are stunned. No wonder Luffy, Zoro, and Nami couldn't imagine it. In fact, they couldn't imagine that a human creature could be so powerful before actually encountering those monsters. Although Zoro's master and Luffy's grandfather are real masters. But one of these two guys is pretending to be weak and the other is crazy. It is estimated that in the eyes of Zoro and Luffy, they are just the impression of a weak teacher and a crazy old man. As for Nami, Arlong, a fishman deserter on a great route, made her think that she was invincible, so how can she expect her to have a clear understanding of master? In short, Shichibukai are the 7 famous pirates recognized by the world government. They are Tyrant, Bartholomew Bear, Emperor, Boa Hancock, Heavenly Yaksha, Don Quixote Doflamingo, Stepping Stone, Gecko Moria, Seaman, Jinbei, Sand Crocodile, Sand Crocodile. Roman glanced at Zoro, a 3-sword swordsman with short green hair. The world's #1 swordsman, Hawkeye, Dracul Mahawk. Oh. As soon as he heard the name, Zoro immediately had a look of anticipation and eagerness to try. I didn't expect him to have the title of Shichibukai. In other words, there are 6 more people as strong as him. Ah, no. Roman waved his hand. In my opinion, Mahawk's strength should be at the forefront among Shichibukai. Then there are Shang, Ming-Jie, Hancock, Jinbei, and Moria, and Crocodile are the weakest, stepping stones. But even if it's a stepping stone, in Shichibukai, it only takes 1 move to kill us. It's not an exaggeration, let alone the strength of the few of them now, even if the Straw Hat Pirates who have experienced many battles and improved in the original plot, can defeat these 2 Shichibukai, luck accounts for 100%. 70. It's really a matter of God's will for 7 points, and hard work for 3 points. Hey. As he spoke, Roman sighed, because looking at your expressions, you probably think I'm telling a fairy tale, or something terrifying. Well then. Roman stood up and waved his hand, and the table in front of them and the chairs under their buttocks immediately turned into sheets of white paper and flew away, almost making Nami's buttocks fall. As for Luffy and Zoro, this reaction is still there. Paper dance, arena. Wow. Pieces of scattered white paper covered the deck, mast, and sides of the ship, wrapping the merchant ship in pure white. Devil fruit is something that depends on personal development. Roman covered the ship with paper that kept flying out of his hands, and continued. Like my paper fruit, if an assassin type eats it, he will probably develop Paper Man, through door cracks, Kami-E, that dodge, Kami-E, that strengthens attacks, Paper Magic Knife, class abilities. If you don't like fighting by yourself, you may develop skills such as Paper Crane, for reconnaissance, Paper Clone, for confusing, and Paper Gundam, for combat. Saying that, Roman pointed to the paper on the ground. As for me, perhaps because of my fear of death, the first ability I developed was this, Paper Iron. I can make the paper I make as strong as steel. Of course, the farther away from my body, the weaker the ability. But if it's just the size of the deck of this ship, I can still maintain my capacity. Wow. Pieces of paper flew out again, fell into Roman's hands and turned into a sailor knife and a shield. So, you don't have to keep your hands. Roman takes a stance, facing Luffy and Zoro. Come and fight with me, and if I win, you will listen to me honestly. Chapter 17 Exercise Syrup Village. 1050. 1051. On the deck of the merchant ship, Luffy and Zoro, who were wrapped in paper bandages, were doing squats while carrying their weights. And Nami, who was also exercising on the side. Why should I join? Facing the tearful Nami, Roman, who was standing beside the rudder, raised his eyelids. You want to fight me too? If you beat me, you don't have to listen to me. Forget it, I practice from the heart. Even the 2 violent madmen Luffy and Zoro lost, and Nami felt that it was better not to make fun of herself. But, Roman, don't you have to exercise? Who said I didn't exercise? Roman waved his hand, and on the rudder next to him, a pair of white, paper hands, were driving the boat forward. I am exercising my fruit ability. If I can create a paper clone that can move freely, it can greatly alleviate our shortage of manpower. Well, Since many of Roman's ideas require sophisticated control, he's really exercising now. Roman, it's understandable that you can cut me with a knife. Once again wrapped in paper bandages, Luffy yelled while exercising. Why can a shield hurt me too? Is that what, hockey, you're talking about? Dreaming, Roman complained. If I knew hockey, I would have gone to the New World long ago. In my opinion, hockey is an extension of the soul. Observation. Hockey stands for perception, armament stands for will, conqueror stands for fate. Air volume, or something else. Roman shook his head. It was too mysterious, and he didn't know. Anyway, I don't even know hockey's specific workouts. How could he possibly use any armament? Saying that, Roman stretched out his hand to call, and a white, paper hand floated out from the cabin, holding a samurai sword in his hand. Not Zoro's darling, but the cargo of this merchant ship. Although Roman and the others have not paid much attention, there is still a huge wealth lying in the cabin below the deck, boxes of swords and flintlock guns. I just attached tiny triangular papers to the edge of the shield, like I do now. With Roman's deliberately zooming ability, a piece of serrated paper appeared on the edge of his palm that pointed like a knife. Then I make them move at high speed. Buzzing. With a low humming sound, these serrations moved rapidly on Roman's body, forming a gray chainsaw. Then he aimed at the samurai sword floating in front of him, and the sword suddenly fell. Clang. Sparks fly, metal clangs. The scabbard samurai sword was instantly split in two. Cut. It only depends on the ability of the fruit, and it is not considered an iron swordsman. Facing Zoro's unhappy words, Roman shrugged. Please, I was originally a fruit power user. I'm not a swordsman. If Luffy is facing Roman's sword shield, he is facing two high-speed cutting chainsaws. Basically, it hurts when you touch it, and bleeds when you touch it. Not to mention fighting, just dodging is extremely embarrassing. So when Zoro faced Roman, he encountered a steel fortress. The whole process of blacksmithing, continuous scraping, and finally get down. If you can cut through the steel, maybe you still have hope of victory. But obviously, the current Zoro does not have this strength. Facing Roman, who was wearing paper dance, iron armor, and carrying a shield at the same time, Zoro was helplessly knocked to the ground after cutting out the sparks in the sky. It doesn't break the defense at all. What do you use to fight? Although it is said that as long as the strength is enough, even if the defense is not broken, it can shock people. Although it is said that Zoro can barely break Roman's paper dance, iron armor, if he charges up to use skills such as Ghost Slash, but don't forget, even if the fruit ability is removed, Roman's own strength is not inferior to Zoro and Luffy. Therefore, the discussion ended with the failure of the two of them, which was originally a matter of course. Speaking of which, when dealing with someone with the full body armor ability like Roman, using a heavy weapon would do more damage. But Roman is already very agile, and the weight of the paper, armor, and weapon is almost zero, which causes his speed to come and go like the wind. In short, willing to gamble to admit defeat. Luffy and Zoro had to sweat and start exercising, bid farewell to the daily playing tricks, and let Roman clean up a lot. Too sloppy. It's a merchant ship, right? After a comfortable hot shower to remove sweat, Nami, who was sitting in the paper chair, started talking to Roman about business. As for Luffy and Zoro, he was already asleep on the deck next to him. Although this merchant ship is not bad, it is not suitable for sailing. As the name suggests, merchant ships are used to carry cargo. While large in size and high in stability, it has the disadvantages of slow speed and poor firepower. And if you go to the Great Route, what you need is a ship that is light and fast, has a certain long-range firepower, and can advance and retreat freely in the sight of the enemy. So, we need a professional boat. And Nami, who was wiping her hair with a towel, asked suspiciously. Is it really good to waste fresh water like this? A hot bath or something is a luxury for the crew of any sailing vessel. Even if this merchant ship has enough load space. Don't worry. Roman waved his hand. I am able to supply paper in large quantities as fuel, and fresh water is just a product I filter from seawater. Hey. Because my paper has the characteristics of biological, to a certain extent, I can make these things as long as I want. A blank piece of paper appeared in Roman's hand. It has the function of biological cell wall, and then through the reverse osmosis principle, it can purify fresh water from seawater. I'm sorry, I understand every word you say, but together it's... Nami, who was looked up and down by Roman's inexperienced eyes, clenched her fists, so angry. If you and I swap strengths, I want you to know what cruelty is. Anyway, you can treat this as one of my fruit abilities. Roman touched his chin. It's called paper dance, purified water. As long as you're happy. Closer to the subject, we'd better switch boats before we get to the Great Line. For Nami's proposal, Roman nodded in approval. Just like the Ride the Wind and Waves that he stayed on before, the Silver Light pirates have been able to save themselves from danger several times, all relying on the ship that can sail at high speed. Unfortunately, no matter how fast he ran, he was finally destroyed by his own hands. That ship was sunk to the bottom of the sea by Roman, and it was the last place for the Silver Pirates to reunite. Well, our next destination is called Syrup Village. It's better to get a new boat there. Facing Nami, who was looking at the chart seriously, Roman rubbed his eyebrows. Syrup Village. Usopp's hometown is also the location where the first ship of the Straw Hat Pirates, the Going Merry, was acquired. I remember that Usopp's childhood sweetheart had an undercover pirate called 100 Stratagems. What was his name? Knock. Or Kuro? Roman recalled for a long time, and only remembered that the other party had a signature gesture of pushing his glasses with his palm, and the long sharp blades on his 10 fingers. It seemed that he was probably just a trash fish. Very good, when you get there, beat the opponent directly and get the ship reward. Etc. Roman rubbed his temples, wondering if he had stayed with Luffy for a long time, and his IQ had plummeted to such an extent. Is there anything so simple and straightforward in the world? Run to beat people and get rewards. What about playing games? And I remember that it seems that the other party was caught by Luffy and others during the secret conversation, so... Forget it, since you know who has the problem, it's easy. Roman's eyes flashed. He was the best at being a bad guy. Chapter 18 Timid Boy Relapse. Syrup Village. On the seaside hillside. Good, what a big ship. Look, those guys are so vicious. Could it be a pirate? What should I do, Captain Usopp? Dubbed Captain Usopp by the 3 children, it was a hooded boy with fluffy black hair and a long nose. He looked at the huge merchant ship below, and his whole body was crawling back in stiffness. It suddenly occurred to me that it was nap time. I have a disease of, I will die if I don't take a nap. Captain Usopp, cheer up. How can you be afraid of mere pirates? Who's there? As a cold and murderous voice came, the 3 children who were peeping at the top of the slope turned around and ran away, leaving behind. Hey, you guys. There is no way, so far. You pirates, this is my Captain Usopp's territory. This boy with a long nose stood up and faced the 4 slowly walking Roman, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. He pointed his thumb to himself and threatened loudly. Hurry up and get me back to the sea, or my 80 million subordinates won't stand idly by. Tisk, there is such a small dirt slope behind you, how can you hide 80 million subordinates? A castle fruit. Roman rubbed his temples, thinking that such a person would also be a companion. In the future, he felt heartbroken. So tired. Thinking about it carefully, the really reliable crew member should be Robin. Usopp's move is similar to, with a single order, 800 axemen are thrown from behind the screen. I was seen through. It's a ghost if you can't see it. Brush. We are pirates. The figure flickered, and a cold voice sounded behind Usopp. The arm lightly placed on his shoulder made half of his body go numb. If you don't agree, you'll fall to the ground. Roman's fingers gently slid across Usopp's neck, instantly making the young man sweat all over his body, his legs shaking at high speed as if he had eaten a rubber band fruit. But snapped. A pair of hands firmly grasped Roman's wrist, and the voice of the boy named Usopp was trembling. I will never let you step into the village. Interesting. Roman swiped his finger on the other's neck along the skin and dubbed it at the same time. PFF'd. Ah. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Roman, he passed out. Bright eyes, foaming at the mouth. No way. In the restaurant of Syrup Village. What, so you're recruiting partners and looking for ships? Usopp, who was full of blood after changing his pants, pitched himself to Luffy, Zoro and Nami with great enthusiasm. If anyone in this town can have a surplus of boats, it's only the Kaya family. She is the daughter of the town's daughter, with a mansion, many properties and a dozen servants. It's a pity that my parents passed away a year ago, no matter how rich. Stop talking. Usopp's words were interrupted by Nami, but he didn't care and returned to the original topic again. Well, if you want to recruit people, I can too. He pointed at himself confidently. I can be your captain. Don't. X3. Think about it. Ha ha ha. What are you laughing at? The annoyed Usopp looked at Roman, who had stunned him. Do you think I'm timid? No. Roman shook his head and said seriously. You are brave. I apologize to you for what happened just now. If it were me, I would face an absolutely invincible enemy alone, and I would have already run away without a trace. How could I have stopped in front of me? And even after the boy named Usopp passed out, he still held his wrist firmly. In all fairness, Roman admitted that he did not have such a determination. HMPH, even if you say that, I won't be happy. Asterisk caret caret asterisk. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Are you possessed by Chopper? By the way, the time has come. Looking at the clock on the wall, the boy with the long nose stood up. You eat first, I have something to do. Not long after the boy named Usopp left, the three children came over. From their mouths, Roman and others also know that the long-nosed boy is going to tell a story to the girl who lost her parents, Kaya, well, bragging, to relieve depression. So. Very good, then let's go to the eldest lady's house to borrow a boat. Well-fed Luffy stood up and announced loudly. Sorry, my mate. Roman, who paid at the counter, pointed in the direction of his temple, with a, expression, which made the boss smile awkwardly and politely. However, the four who had finished eating finally came to a mansion. After breaking into the other party's courtyard without authorization, what appeared in front of them was a scene where a boy named Usopp is being scolded by a bespectacled housekeeper. Wow, this. Roman and the others are almost in front of a pair of dog-blooded, Shira war god's son-in-law's humiliation. How noble is my young lady, even you deserve it. Take the money, get out. 30 years of Hedong, 30 years of Hexy, don't bully the poor. This Syrup Village, don't wait. Reverse, the son of a mere pirate. Get out of this mansion today, and there will be no place for you in Syrup Village. It's about like this. At this time, if a group of pirates with a bounty of hundreds of millions jumped out and shouted, "Welcome the son of the four emperors to come out," that would be more perfect. Roman, what are you laughing at? Ahem, Roman shook his head, I think of happy things. Well, although the content is similar, it is not so brutal and brainless. The bespectacled butler only said a few words, and he teased Usopp and beat him in anger. This time, his image in the heart of the owner of the mansion, Miss Kaya, immediately dropped sharply. Immediately after a few more words, Usopp was forced to leave behind a harsh word of never come here again, and left in anger. As for Luffy's borrowing the boat, of course, it didn't end there. Hello, Usopp. The group walked out after being expelled from the mansion behind. Luffy asked the long-nosed boy beside him. You really don't see that girl named Kaya anymore? HMPH, if the housekeeper apologizes to me, it's not that I can't forgive him. After all, he still couldn't let go of the weak and sick girl. Hee, then you may be disappointed. Behind him, Roman suddenly spoke, and with just one sentence, everyone's attention was drawn. Because of that Miss Kaya, she has already died soon. What did you say? Turning around suddenly, Usopp, who was trembling all over, stared at Roman. Even if he knew that he had no resistance in front of this person, but Kaya is sick, but she'll get better. Take back your curse. Or even Nami on the side frowned, but it was Luffy. Roman, have you found something we don't know? He chose to believe Roman reigns for the first time. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about Miss Kaya's illness. It's the housekeeper just now. It's called Gurahano, or something. Roman opened his hand, and an ancient yellow wanted notice emerged from his palm. While Usopp was startled, the figure above made him suddenly widen his eyes. This is... Hey, isn't this the Mr. Butler from just now? Right. Facing the surprised Nami, the thoughtful Zoro, and the question mark Luffy. Roman raised the wanted warrant in Yang's hand. Hundreds, Kuro, captain of the Black Cat Pirates. Many tricks, unscrupulous means to achieve the goal, a town that once massacred thousands of people. It's rumored that he was arrested and executed by Marine 3 years ago. But, I happen to know, this guy is just a fake death. Roman tilted his head in the direction of the mansion he just walked out of, with a weird smile on the corner of his mouth. I didn't expect him to live in seclusion in this place. In just 2 years, he won the trust of the people around him, and then he killed the main family, and then he only needs to let that Miss Kaya die of illness. Then he will. While I can get a lot of wealth, I can spend the rest of my life in peace. Wonderful. Although Roman can't remember the plot or something, but pirates, aren't they just for taking the blame? Anyway, the other party is indeed trying to steal the property of that Miss Kaya. What? Are Kaya's parents? What evidence do you have? Facing Usopp, who was instantly sweating, Roman pouted. Evidence? Little brother, did you misunderstand there? I'm a pirate, not Marine. What do I need evidence for? Roman stepped forward and shoved the wanted warrant in his hands into the panicked hands of Usopp. In the end, that lady named Kaya is not related to me, not to mention a vicious pirate lying in ambush beside me. Even if she dies immediately in front of me, what does it have to do with me? The reason I brought this up was because I felt. Roman lowered his head and whispered a few words in Usopp's ear. Just for fun. Chapter 19 Salary from the bottom of the pot. Fierce exposed. Well, I apologize to you for what happened before. By the woods on the edge of the town. Roman folded his hands together and expressed his apology to the dejected Usopp. Let me heal you as an apology. But what I said before was not a joke. The housekeeper beside Miss Kaya is Kuro herself. It is normal for Miss Kaya to die suddenly, if someone like him is allowed to stay by her side. Perhaps because of the long time spent with Luffy and the others, Roman has gradually acquired the habit of joking. But now is not the time to be funny, because no one believes me. No one. Usopp, who was holding the wanted order, stood in front of Roman and the others, holding back the tears in his eyes. There was also a shot in the arm, but after Roman's paper knife cleaned the wound and wrapped it with a paper bandage, it was all right. Even Kaya. Okay, Usopp. Nami, who couldn't stand it any longer, comforted the other party. Maybe it's just Roman who made a mistake. Maybe that Captain Kuro can really change his ways. Poor Usopp, because he usually tells too many lies, but this time he told the truth, but no one believed him. Even if he held Kuro's wanted notice, he was angrily denounced as unscrupulous to frame the opponent. Well, that's right. Although the boy named Usopp lied a lot, he actually has 3 specialties: shooting, engineering, and art. That wanted order was mistakenly thought that he painted it. With this specialty, you can easily get rich just by being an artist. It's actually pretty easy to prove if that's the real Captain Kuro. Roman on the side clapped his hands, attracting the attention of several people. I'll just go and slash him. The one who can dodge Roman's knife must be the captain of the Black Cat Pirates. As for the one who can't dodge, don't worry, trust my skills. There will never be such an oolong as hacking people to death. Hey, you said, hack to death, right? Then what can you do? Facing the questions thrown back by Roman, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, including Usopp shook their heads. Even if the housekeeper is really a ruthless pirate, who would believe what the few people present said? What they are facing now is not a problem that can be solved by beating, hacking, stealing, and cheating. Then we don't care about this. Absolutely not. Facing Luffy, who refused without hesitation, Roman spread his hands. So, you can't think of a way, and you have to take care of this matter. It's better to listen to me. Usopp is really in the backyard of the mansion, on the bed by the window. Kaya, a weak girl who could only stay on the bed for a long time because of illness, opened the book in her hand, but couldn't read a single line of it. You said that Klahadore is a pirate, and he even swore to show a wanted notice. This joke is too much. However, recalling the boy who insisted on telling stories every day to solve himself, the anger on the girl's face gradually disappeared and turned into a warm smile. Well, if Usopp can apologize to Klahadore, I'll forgive. Kaya. A familiar voice made the girl who was worried about gain and loss come back to her senses. She turned to look at the boy with his head bowed outside the window, and put down the book in surprise. Usopp, your injury ahem. The girl, who realized that she was acting too happy, turned pale and warned seriously. I know you don't have a good relationship with Klahadore, well, but you shouldn't be. Good afternoon, Miss Kaya. A voice interrupted the weak girl's words, and a smiling Roman stood beside Usopp with his head bowed. You are. My name is Roman, the handsome boy introduced himself, Tokovic Roman. It's a pirate. Ah. Then, Miss Kaya. Roman raised his hand, and sheets of white paper flew out of his palm. Please cooperate with me. It's kidnapping time. The housekeeper named Klahadore has his own room. Today, he was first made trouble by that Usopp with his wanted order, and later found that the powerful pirates were still wandering in this town. Made him feel a little anxious. Or, postpone the action. Bang. Not good, Klahadore. The door was suddenly pushed open, and a housekeeper with sheep-shaped hair rushed in anxiously. He is another housekeeper of the house, named Mary. Miss Kaya has been kidnapped. What? Kuro, who goes by the pseudonym Klahadore and is actually the captain of the Black Cat Pirates, suddenly stood up. Seeing that his plan is about to be realized, and the opportunity to cut off the past to become a respected gentleman is within reach, actually. What the hell is going on? Mary, who was picked up by him, thought that this colleague was just a pure caring lady, and immediately said everything. It's Usopp. He colluded with those foreign pirates to kidnap Miss Kaya and asked us to prepare a ransom. Snapped. Throwing the housekeeper named Mary aside, Kuro, who was in a hurry, turned around and grabbed a long and narrow handbag in the room and strode out. Of course he is not worried about the owner here, Miss Kaya, but... Damn, the pirates must be found first. Otherwise, if someone else finds it first, they might exchange all the property here for that sick bastard. Gallop out. However, this is a town full of people, no matter how anxious he is, the man named Kuro has to slow down, and he goes all the way in the words of Mr. Silently Followed. So. Only then did he give the housekeeper Mary, who was desperately chasing after him, a target. "Miss Kaya. Please don't get excited, it's not good for your health." In a clearing in the woods, Miss Kaya was tied to a chair by a long strip of paper, the same tape stuck to her mouth. Facing Roman's words, the girl didn't feel scared, but looked at Usopp, who was squinting aside and didn't dare to look at her with heartache. Next to him are Luffy in the captain's coat, Nami in the blindfold, and Zoro wiping the katana. Coupled with Roman with a cold smile on his face, the breath of pirate blows. "Don't worry, we just need a boat." Roman, who played the role of the bad guy, sneered at the weak girl Kaya with a face of resentment while folding the white paper origami crane. "When we receive the ransom, we will naturally let you go." Roman. "Don't talk." Glancing back at Luffy, who was posing with a bitter face, Roman was afraid that the moment he opened his mouth, the serious atmosphere would be wiped out. "Come on." It didn't take long for Roman to fold the paper crane in his hand, and a figure had passed through the woods and came to this clearing. It was a man in a suit. He had a big back, glasses, and a suit. The pattern on his clothes seemed to be feces. He was carrying a long, narrow handbag in one hand and his wrist on his glasses in the other. "Miss Kaya, I'm here to help." "Clahador no, Captain Kuro." Roman interrupted the other party's performance with a wave of his hand. Being able to find this place so quickly shows that the other party is agile and good at tracking. But now this heavy pace, panting appearance. What about a liar? Although I'm very curious about how a pirate captain like you actually lives in such a small place, but 100 million Baileys, Roman shook a finger. "As long as we come up with this money, we will pretend that nothing happened." Meanwhile, with a flip of the wrist of the other hand, the paper crane in his hand turned into a dagger like magic. "Let go of your lady." The dagger in Roman's hand was placed beside the slender neck of the girl named Kaya, and Usopp on the other side almost took out his weapon and aimed it at him. "Quiet." The face of the man who was excited just now on the opposite side turned gloomy. "Hey, what does Captain Kuro mean? I can't bear to." Wait a minute." "Ha, ha, ha ha." At this moment, a man with sheep hair ran over, also wearing a suit. "It looks like the housekeeper of a big family. Please don't hurt Miss Kaya." The panting sheep-headed man leaned on his knees and looked eagerly at Roman's group of kidnaps, even ignoring the accomplice, Usopp on the side. "Please give me some time, whether to sell the property or borrow usury, we will definitely." Puff. However, before the loyal sheep butler finished speaking, a few rays of light flashed, and he threw himself to the ground with blood in his chest. "The attacker is. That's all my money. I do not know when to take out the weapon in the handbag and take out the glasses butler wearing on his hand." Captain Kuro raised his head. There is only endless indifference and murderous intent in his eyes. "Who gave you permission to save that bastard, E.H.? Chapter 20. See the picture. Single kill Black Cat. Hee hee. Facing Kuro, the glasses man with 10 sharp claws in both hands, killing his teammates and offering sacrifices to the sky, Roman just pretended to be surprised. "It turns out that what you have in your handbag is a weapon, not Bailey. It seems that you don't care about your lady's safety at all." The dagger in Roman's hand has left the neck of the weak girl named Kaya. Now that the other party has ripped his face, there is no need to continue the performance. "Oops, Captain Kuro." Roman stepped forward and blocked in front of Kaya, who was still tied to the chair behind him. "Do you want to kill everyone here with your murderous appearance?" "Of course." Now that this is the case, Captain Kuro, disguised as a butler, has no need to hide it. When the others were still in shock, they admitted it directly and generously. "Today, everyone here is going to die. Mary." A delicate shout broke the silence, and it was Roman who untied the paper tape from Miss Kaya's mouth. "Clahador, how can you? Seeing this, don't you understand yet, miss?" However, the man wearing glasses and extending sharp-blade weapons from his hands and fingers just responded indifferently. "My name is Kuro, not Clahador." But if you want money, it's all yours. No, you are wrong. Kuro could only push the glasses with the palm of his hand because he had a weapon called 10 blades in his hands. I want more than money. And the safe gentleman's life. Although there was a little accident, it doesn't matter, miss. When I kill these nosy thieves, I'll let Django hypnotize you and make you make a property by Clahador, which is my inheritance. The man opposite directly revealed his plan, not shy about the surprise, disappointment, and disbelief on everyone's faces. I'll kill you again then, miss. Then push these tragedies onto these alien pirates. Of course, Usopp, who is an accomplice. Enough. Wow. The paper tape that bound Kaya turned into real paper and slipped, and the girl raised the one in her hand. Short-barreled flintlock pistol. No more, Clahador. The gun was aimed at the man who used to accompany her to laugh, cry, and take care of her as a family member. Originally I didn't believe it, but... Please get out of here or I'll shoot. Katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot katakana middle dot. Looks like you're getting stronger too, miss. It's been 3 years, do you know how I got here in the past 3 years? Every day I take care of you, a stinky little girl, stay by your side all night when you are sick, and be a servant before and after the saddle. Captain Kuro, who was once feared by countless people, humbly endured these, recalling the previous hardships. The man named Kuro was full of murderousness. Just to kill you. Snapped. The short-barreled flintlock gun in her hand fell to the ground. The girl named Kaya lowered her head, and tears fell like broken pearls. You bastard. Usopp stepped forward angrily, but was blocked by a hand. You have other things to do. Roman, who stopped Usopp, tilted his head to Kaya, who was crying behind him, with an expression of, you guys don't hurry to comfort others. As for the battle, leave it to me. Roman walked towards the opposite Captain Kuro. After all, this is my idea, and I should be the one to finish. Roman, what about us? Luffy, who was watching the play, shouted in dissatisfaction. There is only one enemy, it's not enough to divide it at all. 10 blades. Evil sect is crooked, not a swordsman. Come on Roman. You. Kuro, who had blue veins bulging on his forehead, was infuriated by the defiant boys and girls in front of him. Bold newcomer, don't put me in salt. What do you think of me, Captain Kuro? Clang. In the splash of sparks, the figures of Roman and Captain Kuro suddenly shudder. Frightened, Nami ripped off the decorative blindfold. So fast. If not the position where the two stand, and the direction of the weapon in their hand. She didn't even react. The two people who were several meters apart had just exchanged hands. Don't worry. Roman casually threw it back, and a white paper crane landed in front of the three of Luffy, and then slowly flew up. Luffy, here comes your business. The paper crane I released saw a cat-shaped vessel with a pirate flag on the northern coast. It seems that our Captain Kuro has also invited other helpers. Roman pointed to the direction in which the paper cranes were flying. Luffy, Zoro, Nami, the enemy of that ship is up to you. Okay, wrap it on me. HMPH, I've wiped the knife several times. Why even me? The treasure on that ship is yours. In one sentence, Nami, who had been beaten by chicken blood, dragged Luffy and Zoro, two coolies, and followed the flying paper cranes to the north. Then, Captain Kuro. Roman looked at Kuro, who had been silent for a while. It seems that you have confidence in your subordinates, but... I've never had confidence in those junk, but the man opposite just silently raised his glasses with his palm. I just have confidence in my strength. Even if they fail in the end, I can also kill everyone. Facing the calm and murderous Captain Kuro, Roman is just VV Isho. It's a coincidence, I too. Meow. Kuro's body suddenly blurred and melted into the air without a sound, and Roman, who formed two sailor knives with paper in his hands, also moved at an extremely fast speed, turning his entire body into a phantom that was indistinguishable to the naked eye. Meow. In the eyes of Usopp and Kaya on the side, they could only faintly see two fast-moving figures that were completely blurred to the point of not distinguishing between you and me, entangled in everything. There is a gossamer-like light swimming in the air, very slow, but it seems to be very fast. It was suddenly the afterimage pulled out between the sharp blades high-speed swinging, and every time such a light swept across the earth, trees, and rocks, all the objects in front of them were cut away silently. Both of them are fighting fast, sweeping across the battlefield like a gust of wind. Next is clang, 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 clang. In a series of banging sounds, sparks exploded everywhere, like thousands of fireflies suddenly flying in the clearing in the woods. Caw caw caw. Countless cracks suddenly appeared in all directions, all over the battlefield. As if more than a dozen swordsmen had just fought here, there were signs of cutting and slashing everywhere, surrounded by slowly falling trees, and the fallen leaves that turned into pieces in the air. Afterwards, the two of them appeared again, standing 4 meters away from each other with their backs to each other. On the ground between them, there are black strips of cloth and blood everywhere, clearly indicating the outcome of this battle. Kuro, whose black suit was full of rips, turned around, and the white shirt under the suit began to spread red. He stared at Roman, who also turned around with an ugly face, his Adam's apple wriggling. Devil fruit. That's right, Roman took the sailor knives in both hands at random, and threw off the blood on it. Don't say anything unfair. The wave of passion and chopping just now should be indistinguishable in theory. However, fruit power is also my strength. I don't want to hear some crazy talk about taking off my armor and fighting again. Paper dance, iron armor. On the opposite side, Captain Kuro is an opponent who is extremely fast and not very lethal. Maybe Cruelty is a good player, but when he encounters such a high defense as Roman, he will be restrained to death. Only scraping all the way. It looks like that's the only way to go. The captain named Kuro lowered his head and spread his arms. However, in fact, he is not very hopeful about whether he can defeat Roman Reigns. Because my next move is too flawed, I can only bet that my stamina will be exhausted first, or the opponent's defense will be unable to hold on first. Spoon. Call. As he made up his mind to launch a big move, the whole person immediately. No gone. Usopp rubbed his eyes and looked at the opposite side again, not even letting go of the surroundings, but Roman, that Captain Kuro ran away. Run. Roman pointed around. If you call that running, it's really. Puff. A big tree suddenly fell to the side with a crisp sound. And on its trunk, there are 4 smooth-cut surfaces out of thin air. This is what's going on. Puff, puff, puff. Trees, the ground, and even the ruins where we fought just now, there are wounds appearing out of thin air. It looked like an invisible blade had gone through. That captain named Kuro is nearby, attacking. It's just that his speed is so fast that even Roman can only see a little afterimage. In the eyes of others, it is a complete disappearance. It is indeed a sharp skill, but what a pity. He was able to train himself a move similar to the shaving in Marine Rokushiki, but he was afraid of the sea and a strong enemy, so he chose to hide here for the rest of his life. Even so, he couldn't let go of his inexplicable pride and greed. But looking at the random attack of the other party, it should be impossible to control. Just when Roman was fully aware of the other party, he suddenly felt a wind blowing from his side. And on the other side's line. Oops, Miss Kaya. As soon as his mind moved, the chair behind the weak girl immediately flew and spread like a living thing, and it was about to cover the girl's body to form a defense. But puff. Blood splattered. A little bit of dark red fell on the face of the girl named Kaya, making her pupils tremble. Usopp. At a critical moment, I don't know how the boy named Usopp noticed that the enemy who had exceeded the range of human eyes was killing Kaya at a high speed. In short, he suddenly pounced and used his body to protect the weak girl. A small injury. The whole back splashed high blood, but facing the girl in his arms, the long-nosed Usopp still smiled with difficulty and chose to say a lie. Well done. Roman, who almost rolled over, first let out a sigh of relief, and then his eyes became solemn. Stop playing. Snapped. He folded his hands together, and sheets of paper that had already been arranged floated out of thin air. Paper dance, Momiji hunting. Puff. With Roman's order, a large scarlet splash suddenly splashed in the air. Dyed sheets of white paper red, and pieces of meat scattered all over the floor. Sure enough, this kind of high-speed movement that sacrifices everything, the most feared thing is break failure. If the other party chooses to fight Roman Reigns well, it is estimated that it will take a lot of work. But since this uncontrollable, big move was launched, Roman directly activated the prepared field skills. Just lay out the next sharp paper in the air, and wait for the other party to slam into it. As for the result, Captain Kuro, who turned into a few hundred pieces on the ground, is the most obvious example. The speed that cannot be freely controlled is just a reminder of the god of death.